Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the May 15 Council meeting. People in the gallery and people at home, thanks for attending. I'd like to start with welcome or acknowledgement of country. Wodonga Council acknowledges Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people as the first inhabitants of the country and as traditional custodians of the land. We respect their ancestors, elders and young people and recognise their continuous connections to the lands, waters and communities across the country. Next item, apologies, request for leave of absence and request to attend by electronic means. Any request for leave of absence? Councillor Lowe.
I'll request a leave of absence for the next council meeting just due to the fact that I don't know if I can be in a secure location or not. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Lowe. We also have a request to attend by electronic means from Councillor Chamberlain. Yeah, okay. Oh, sorry, first of all, can I have a motion to accept Councillor Lowe's request for leave of absence? Councillor Quilty? Councillor Poulton? Put that to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm allowed to vote. I haven't been accepted to the meeting yet.
Yes. Yeah. Next point is request by Councillor Chamberlain to attend electronically. Do I have a motion? Councillor Simpendorfer, Councillor Quilty. All those in favour? Carried unanimous. Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain.
Thank you.
That's all right, got it going. Next item of business is confirmation of the minutes from previous meeting. Sorry. Do we have any conflicts of interest? Thank you. Confirmation of minutes from previous meetings. Councillor Hall. Councillor Poulton. Can I ask that, are we moving both of those in one go or do we want to do them separately?
Well, the only problem is I wasn't at the special meeting.
Oh, okay.
So maybe
Thank you. Separately. I put the motion. All those in favour? Unanimous. Do I have a motion for the meeting on May 1? Councillor Poulton. Councillor Quilty. Put that motion. All those in favour? Unanimous. Mr. CEO, we have question time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have a number of questions tonight. Our first question is from Pedro Afonso, and the questions are, what is the percentage split of the resident rate contribution versus the business rates contribution to the City of Wodonga? And question 2 is, what percentage or monetary amount of the business rates contributions are invested back into supporting business, either by supporting the business's community, grants, donations, in-kind or other support through an appropriate conduit, being either the Wodonga Council, Business Wodonga or other. In part 1 of the response, based on residential versus commercial and industrial land, the current split for the 22-23 income is 77% residential rates and 23% business rates, excluding rural farming and rural non-farming development use, land and society and social club rate types. Part 2, for the 22-23 year, the total economic development budget is $863,000. Question 2 from Pedro as well. What is the Wodonga Council strategy to support small, medium, large business in our city? If one is available, please point me to the document online, or if it is available to view at council reception. The council has a number of ways to assist the business community, such as support based on capital investment and job creation that may provide rate relief. This could also include partial and full fee waivers associated with development application fees for planning and building fees, and may also extend to other fees which may be applicable. A concierge experience or a one-stop shop when businesses require development advice. This service better approvals program being able to gather necessary information from various sources within council and provide as a single response to the businesses. Information on council's website at the Small Business Wodonga section where relevant information can be obtained. In instances where existing businesses are experiencing financial hardship, some municipal rates relief may be available through confidential discussions with council's helpful finance team, and council is in the process of developing an economic development strategy at the moment. A question from Graham Jenkin. The proposed response is to advise that this question has been received and has been ruled out under clause 62.9.4, a question aimed at embarrassing a councillor. It's a question from Chris Phillips. Given the cost of living pressures that people are experiencing, is council considering following the federal and state governments by reducing staff and contractors by 10% and all non-essential council activities? Council has proposed to take a considered approach to the future financial sustainability and development of a financial sustainability plan, and this will include such items as engaging with the community in 23-24 about service levels and associated financial and delivery outcomes, and present this information to the 24-25 budget deliberations. From Chris Cox, very similar question, noting the cost of living pressures, wages not rising, and the talk of raising rates into the future, what is Wodonga City Council's intent behind driving people from the city? Albury have a 2% rates with an increase to 3.7% in the financial year 23-24. What are the sustainable passive income streams the council are working on to support the current and future paths? Similar to the previous response, council has proposed to take a considered approach to the future financial sustainability and develop a financial sustainability plan, and this will include such items as engaging with the community in 23-24 about income and service levels and associated financial and delivery outcomes, and present this information to the 24-25 budget deliberations. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Next item is delegates' reports, of which there are none. Item 7.1, are there any conflicts within the budget that any councillors wish to call out to be considered independently? No, thank you. Move on from that one. Draft council plan as adjusted for 2023. I might ask the CEO to give an introduction to the draft council plan and to the draft budget in one go in the interests of expediency. Thank you, Mr. CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In preparation for the 23-24 financial year, council staff have prepared a budget that's financially sustainable, continues to deliver key services and engage with the community about future services. The council delivers many essential services in our community, and our staff are proud of the high service levels that we deliver. We've recently undertaken an organisation review that puts our customer first and identifies efficiencies and delivers services to the community. The budget for the 23-24 recommends a 3.5% rate rise in line with the Victorian Government's rate cap to remain fiscally prudent while catering for the needs of a growing city. The Council needs to balance the operating in a restrained budgetary climate while continuing to meet our community's expectations and build on the visionary work of past councils to ensure future generations have the same high standards of infrastructure and amenity. This budget takes a conservative approach while working to complete our major projects. While the balance will be difficult in the coming years, it is an opportunity for us to invest in the conceptual planning and business cases to be shovel-ready to partner with other levels of government and industry. We acknowledge the future changes to service levels could be necessary to maintain a surplus position. This budget and adjusted council plan continue to reflect our mission that we strengthen the community in all that we do. It includes a key project for the up-and-coming 12 months to develop a new community vision that sets the aspirations for our community and city in the long term, looking out more to the 20 years ahead. I'll ask our Director of Corporate Services, Dina Belkert, if you can please introduce the details to the budget.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. As the CEO mentioned, the budget presented today provides a comprehensive review of Council's position and contains strategic activities that Council will undertake in the next 12 months and beyond. It has been underpinned by sound financial principles and assumptions and ensures that Council remains financially viable in the short term and into the future. Key highlights from the budget include the 3.5% rate increase in line with the Victorian Government's rate cap, which provides total rates and charges revenue for Council of $52.9 million. In preparing the draft budget, Council was conscious of balancing the cost of living pressures for the community with the inflation and the cost to Council to deliver the essential community services and to maintain infrastructure within the municipality in both the short and the long term. Our rates increase, our curbside garbage charges and waste management levy have all been kept well below CPI, which is currently running at 7% as it was in March 2023. A 3% increase in curbside garbage charges and a 3.57% increase in the waste management levy as compared with the 22-23 year. All of these together amount to an increase for the average residential ratepayer of $1.26 per week or $65.52 per year for residential occupied ratepayers. The net cost of services that will be delivered to the Wodonga community for the 23-24 year is expected to be $60.8 million. Overall, Council have budgeted for a total revenue of $74.2 million and total expenses of $72.8 million, giving Council an operating surplus of $1.47 million and an adjusted underlying surplus of $1.06 million. That is after taking out non-monetary contributions and non-recurring capital grants. So this means that Council can fully fund its current level of servicing to the community. We have a capital works program of $15.9 million with carry forward projects of approximately $13 million. This has been rationalised for the year as compared with last year, where it was approximately $30 million capital works carried forward. Significant capital items included in the draft 23-24 budget include Brockley Street Bridge replacement and road resealing and renewals of existing roads due to damage from unseasonal weather events. Both of these we have been getting grants to help with those projects. The largest project that's being carried forward is Baranduda Fields, which is $7 million. That's after significant delays in prior years due to the endangered Sloane's froglet being located on site and the unseasonal weather. Finally, we've allowed a $5 million provision for borrowings to enable Council to purchase strategic land and buildings or to use as bridging finance for the sale of land. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Can I have a motion in relation to the draft council plan, please? Councillor Poulton, Councillor Quilty. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Excuse me. I'll try to get through this and keep my word economy, knowing it's quite a substantial meeting this evening. The Council Plan 21 to 2025 has been adjusted. Those adjustments aren't anything too major, other than just, I guess, responsive to the feedback from the community. But I guess if I can reflect upon my time on council, when we first entered this planning process was in the middle of COVID for this current council plan. It was quite difficult to talk to a community, but as we did, and as I got to preside over that occasion, the community, I sensed, love what they have, and there certainly wasn't any groundbreaking new ideas that I was privy to or saw at the point in time. But it doesn't mean we can't aspire to do more, and it doesn't mean that we can't make incremental improvements as we do get that feedback from the community. So we've seen this a couple of times since this exercise was first undertaken, that we do revisit this plan regularly. I think the thing that stands out is a body of work that was done some years ago, which the community really engaged in. We're prepared to do it again soon, which is creating our future vision for 2050. This will be a good opportunity, I believe, for the community to come back out and say yes. We appreciate last time we had this conversation. That's what guided our city to where we are today. And that obviously will have direct impact into these 4-year plans that we have to do by legislation. It's essentially a strategic plan for the council, which a lot of people will be familiar with in business. It's a solid document. We continually, as a council, like all local governments, have the issue with engagement. It was tougher during COVID, but I'd encourage the community to not just support, and my councillors to support this one tonight, but to really make sure that you're engaging with council. And when you see these opportunities, and it's great to see a full gallery tonight almost, by the way, that's been some time in the making, but to really give us the feedback about where we do well, what value you get from your rates as a ratepayer, and what you are happy to see that invested towards. There's always rooms for improvement. There's always things that we can do better and things that we might debate till the sun goes up tomorrow as to whether we should or shouldn't be in certain spaces of funding. But at the end of the day, what you find in Wodonga is a very proud city, full of proud people that don't necessarily live there, but definitely work or do business there, maybe play their sport there, that expect this council to continue to deliver that for many, many years to come. So I guess full support this will have from me this evening, and I thank the council officers for their continuous efforts of trying to milk the fresh ideas out of 7 councillors, but also to the 7 councillors who each constantly try to get the community to come forward with those ideas and making sure we're doing the best we can. But I think I'll leave it there, Mr. Mayor. It has my support this evening.
Thank you, Councillor Poulton. Councillor Hall.
Yes, I concur with Councillor Poulton's comments. It is something that has been at council. The plan's been basically the same plan for some time now. It's been tinkered with. I think there comes a time when we probably need to look at it in a bigger way. But I also emphasise that we need to get the community feedback to be able to look at what the community wants going forward, and we can adjust the plan going forward. So it does tend to come up once a year with the council budget. I'm keen to probably revisit it and have a fuller look at it, but I'm going to support the one that's been recommended tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Any other councillors? Councillor Lowe.
I'll probably just echo my fellow councillors' words and won't go on too much from there, just due to the large agenda, and there's no point in rehashing over very well said statements. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Any other councillors? Councillor Quilty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have not much to say about council plan. It is a slightly adjusted plan from last year. We are looking at very soon starting an exciting stage of a new large council plan. However, I'm pretty happy with the one we have currently, and I'm going to support it. I would like to use this opportunity to welcome our new Director of Corporate Services, Dina Fleckert. It is a terrific time and also a very difficult time to come to the council and to the first meeting of the council during the budget and council plan preparation. Welcome and thank you for jumping on board and being so helpful so quickly. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Coulty. No other speakers? Danny? Councillor Chamberlain?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to say I also am going to be supportive of this council plan. Obviously, we need to have a plan so we know where we're going and what we need to do. So fairly short order, but I will be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. Before we close, I'd just like to make a couple of observations in relation to our council plan. I note that the past 12 years have seen transformational change across Wodonga. This current council plan was in essence conceived at the beginning of this period of transformational change, and the council has, for the most part, delivered on the vision and strategy of that plan. The plan's been adapted and adjusted to keep abreast of changed circumstances and conditions, but it's time now to look to the development of a 2050 plan. Not only should council prepare for the major infrastructure and community facilities projects, it must be prepared for population growth, new commercial and industrial investment commensurate with that population growth. The council must also plan for and pursue a diversity of investment opportunities, increasingly of national and international significance. The council plan 21 to 25 is the current key strategic document that outlines priorities and informs the council budget and is drawn from past consultation and community vision. The council plan seeks to prepare and deliver projects and programs and services to meet constant population and urban growth and to create more livable and prosperous city. So it's time to go forward and look to what we can do and take the lessons that we've learnt from our predecessors with the plan that's now reaching a conclusion and look to advance what we can do with that grand vision into the future. Thank you, Councillor Poulton, to close.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, and it's great that it looks like we all sort of echo that same sentiment of respecting the council groups that came before all of us and did a substantial body of engagement with hundreds of people from within our community, different cross sections. And just, I guess, to reinforce it and rest everybody assured, because we know the councillors on this round will respect in one of our briefing sessions where I mentioned that we really need to make sure that engagement this time around is as good as, if not better than, the last time that happened, because it did set this city up for some transformational success, including removals of railway lines and what to do after that and all the rest. Whilst there's still some teething issues with that, perhaps that revisited 2050 vision will come up with some pearlers. So thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Poulton. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. We move on to the budget. Councillor Poulton, do I have a seconder? Yeah. Councillor Simpendorfer. Councillor Poulton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This could get a little interesting and controversial. This evening, I do move the recommended rate increase of 3.5% and the budget substantially originally put together on the folder in front of us. And I would not at all ever say that 7 councillors haven't done their correct work in poking, prodding, probing, trying to find savings, trying to come up with different ideas and trying to make sure that everything is above board and everything looks okay. And beautifully it is. We're at a really interesting point in time where, regardless of what might be reported each day in headlines and what each and every one of us feels individually, not the whole picture is always true until you get it directly in front of you. And for me as a councillor, everything that I've looked at and asked, including requests for assistance, whether there's been a change in our debtors in recent times as cost of living bites with people, and all the rest, so I couldn't find a reason not to support the recommended 3.5%. And trust me, I tried. Because a council often is full of charitable souls, to be honest. If you put your hand up to represent your city's interests, you do the best you can with everything you've got in front of you. And sometimes it's tough. It's tough to really look at things. So for me, I look at a zero rate rise that this city delivered some time ago, and we have seen some of the compounding effects of that play out and how we've had to make decisions to change support to organisations or groups, and we've had to pivot and do different things to what we delivered previously under the original vision of the city, which really, to me, starts to decay what is a community feel. And at the end of the day, our job is to take 44,000, I think this year's forecast is closer to 45, and try to best represent their fabric and what they care for. And when a council does things, it doesn't mean that I show up as an individual ratepayer to each and every one of those and get full value out of that. But if I look around and I see people that like the arts are getting opportunity to express themselves or absorb it, whether people in the business community and feel like they're getting supported, whether someone's down at a sporting field and it's maintained, or at least that community not-for-profit groups being given the chance and the support to take a peppercorn lease from the council and turn their asset into something that really makes a heart, really makes a city sing. I think that's what you'll find is the appeal for our particular city. And you'll probably hear conversation and debate around, oh, but we've had high rates in the past and you know, we're still pretty high, and you know, I just challenge anybody that doesn't feel value from their rates in this city to move somewhere cheaper. Move somewhere where you think, sell up tomorrow. Average sale price is pretty good in Wodonga at the moment. The time you'll wait is about 28 days on average to get rid of your property. And go and look at a lesser community. Because ultimately, every time somebody puts that argument forward that $65.52 a year is going to break somebody versus other choices they could make in life, I could proudly today as a council say, with the recommended increase of 3.5%, we're still going to have some pretty strong headwinds in the years ahead as our city grows. But I think we'd be shooting ourselves in the foot, councillors. I know we've all done our work on this, we're trying to do the best we can. We'd be shooting ourselves in the foot to accept anything less than that. As it stands, the majority, largely of the state, is taking 3.5%. Look across the river, which we have the fortunate situation to do, and see what's happened under a rate capping scenario for shires over there, where you're starting to look at special rate variances of 76-point-something% over 4 years. There's no doubt there's plenty of cost shifting from state governments back to local government. We come across this day in day out. There'll probably be a couple of items tonight on the agenda that are good examples of that. But I think if we are really going to do our job and we are actually going to think about what the Act says we're here to do and what each of us with our hearts come in each day and empower a workforce of 400 plus people worth substantial money each year to do their jobs, I can't see an argument yet as to why we wouldn't confidently put the city's interests forward with the recommended 3.5%. I know that's not always going to be popular with people, but unfortunately, it's a fact, and I'll be supporting this one tonight. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Poulton. Councillor Simpendorfer. Reserve. Any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Hall.
I wish to foreshadow a motion if this motion doesn't get up.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Any other speakers? Councillor Lowe.
I'll be supporting this motion tonight as well for a few reasons. You're right, Councillor Poulton. It's up to us to find savings, find how we're going to put downward pressure on the rate caps. But sometimes we need to look into the future, and I think our role as councillors is about long-term strategic planning, not the now, not looking for a pat in the back to save someone $50 for now, because I can tell you one thing, that saving of $50 or $60 right now, long term, when that same person is coming up to you and saying that this town is no longer the town that they were living in before they got the saving, that has no long-term sustainability, the services have dropped off, those complaints are far going to outweigh the pat in the back that you might get for saving someone $50 in a singular year. The whole idea of a budget, in my opinion, for councillors is look for the savings, look for the downward pressure, but look for that planning where we go, what can we put in place now for the long-term sustainability and future of our city? Where do we get the most downward pressure from rates is our commercial rating. So our commercial industries, our industrial industries. So how do we best support them? How do we support our growing businesses? How do we support the people that will create the jobs for sustainability to attract more people here? So that's what I'm looking at for tonight and supporting this motion. And that will do for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Councillor Quilty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you all the speakers before me. I will not be supporting the budget with 3.5% rate rise. I was aiming and still am aiming for a lower rate rise. Unfortunately, despite my best wishes, I think that zero rate rise in a year like this without a complete review of the services we provide is irresponsible and unsustainable. Besides, there is one thing that I, after only having been a councillor for 2 years, didn't have a complete grasp of. We provide a lot of services, and we have different opinions of which of them are nice to have and which of them are must have and which of them cost too little or too much to our city. However, to get a reshape and reshake of those services, a long process involving community consultation, lasting 12 to 18 months, as I understand, is required. And therefore, no, I am not going to propose a 0% rise. However, I think that we can comfortably do better with under the cap rate rise. I believe that we are I know we are still going to end up in the surplus, and for a couple of years after that, we are going to be able to afford being in the surplus, and I believe and intend to work towards a review of some services and making sure that most essential services, assets renewal, assets maintenance, are maintained at the best possible standard. Now, I do not believe in saying that rate rise is going to be a 50% or $50 or $60 per a household on average. Outside of my council employment, I'm not a medic, I'm an accountant. However, I would compare saying a $50, $60 per an average household is akin to talking about an average temperature per patient in the hospital. Every ratepayer has their own property, their own incomes, their own circumstances, and we as councillors have the responsibility to be good custodians of ratepayers' money while providing excellent services. Therefore, I'm not supporting the budget as it stands with a 3.5% rate rise. Thank you. I'm trying to turn it off. No, it wants me to keep talking.
Yeah, there we go. We're away. Thank you, Councillor Quilty. Councillor Chamberlain.
Yeah, I'd like to echo Councillor Quilty's comments there. I've only been a councillor for a very short time, under 6 months, but I also have been speaking to the community and listening to the community, and a lot of those people are fully aware of the fact that Wodonga has been a very high rating city. And although I do appreciate the excellent work done by the staff in putting this draft budget together, I believe we can save some money and we can bring the rates back closer to in line with where I believe they should be and where the ratepayers believe they should be. There's been some funny things go on in previous years, and I'm not going to cast aspersions on any councillors, but everybody is, I think, aware of some of the things that have happened that have negatively affected the thoughts of the ratepayers about how we go about our business and how we do our rates and charges. And I think we need to earn some trust back. And although it has been an improved situation over the last few years, I think we do have an opportunity here to show some, to try and gain some trust in the people and say we're not just out to get into your pocket at every minute. And no matter what it's worth, I think it's more of an indication of what we can get done. So I won't be supporting this at a 3.5% rate rise. And if it gets up, it does. If it doesn't, I hope we get a relevant rise and charges to go forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. Councillor Simpson-Norfolk, reserved.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I won't go on too long. Again, long agenda, and I think we know where this is headed. So I'll just reiterate what I've heard from the community, and we must be all clearly split into very different parts of our community. The fiscal responsibility in putting this budget together, thank you very much to all the staff that have done it. With many different variances put to them and through the CEO, please pass on our best with getting this through for our city. Our city is growing. It is growing at a rapid rate, one of the fastest going around in the state, if not the country. And reiterating, I think, what Councillor Poulton said, or I think it might have been yourself, Councillor Poulton, around when you speak to the people around the city and they can see their value for dollar and what they're getting. And I saw that yesterday, Mother's Day, the amount of mums, and happy Mother's Day to all the mums in the room and at home. An amazing job to get out and about and see our city and experience what we are. We are providing these opportunities for people in our city to live. And if you don't think you're getting value for money, I think you're not getting out and about as hard as what you can. I'll be supporting the recommended from those with the financial acumen to back what we're doing for the city. This is a long-term future issue that we're going to keep facing. It's not just about this budget, it's the next one, and the 5 and the 15 and the 20 after that. So we need to have the courage, and I'll use the vernacular of, to plant a tree that we will never, ever sit in the shade of. I'll be supporting this motion, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Simpson-Norfolk. Councillor Poulton.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Ground control to Major Tom. Yep, it's all working good. $10 million in 10 years, I think, was the figure. Is that right, Mr Mayor and CEO? $10 million in 10 years is what we will potentially sacrifice if we don't accept the 3.5% increase. What does that mean to anything that we're doing in the town? Facilities for a growing city. We'll hear some more about this shortly by the feel of things. But I'm not discrediting at all that people in the community are struggling. I'm not discrediting at all that there might be people in the community that are saying we don't want our rates to go up. No one wants to pay more for anything, right? Like I'd happily say $65.52 to a city that I reap benefits of and live in would far outweigh the probably $600 more I'm paying in insurance this year across my property and vehicles and things like that, where they just gouge me and don't give me anything in return. I'd probably say the $65.52 is a bucket load better than the telco company that's taking now, I think, $80 a year extra from me for a lesser service. And here we are delivering a fantastic city that all I can see us trying to do here is go backwards. And all I can see us trying to do here by not accepting this is I guess, it's a bit of a double-edged sword. It seems like we're expecting our staff to prepare 2 budgets for us, which isn't a massive task in itself in a short period of time. But the other thing we're also doing is we're saying, don't worry, staff, councillors are now going to do your job for you because we're experts and we're better at it than you. So please just sit back for the free ride. We'll take care of everything and just please come along to the meetings, because I think this is the most disrespectful thing that I've ever seen happen in an organisation in a lot of years. We've got the professional advice in front of us. It's not nice to stand in front of a community that we know is struggling and say the best thing for all of us is 3.5%, and we're still going to have some issues on the horizon, just so you know. But for us to go backwards, which I think we're probably about to do when this goes to vote, it's just, it blows my mind. It really does blow my mind how we'd bother sitting with professionals each year and paying them to do their jobs if we don't entrust in them or back what they give black and white and in colour, nice charts all throughout the year, to say that we should take the 3.5%. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Put the motion. All those in favour? Councillor Lowe, Councillor Poulton, Councillor Simpendorfer. All those against? Councillor Hall, Councillor Mildren, Councillor Quilty, Councillor Chamberlain. The motion is lost. Councillor Hall, you foreshadowed another motion.
I'm sorry. Yeah, yes, yes, Chair, Mildren. I propose a motion, and I'll read out the motion. All the councillors have it in front of them. The motion I propose is 1, approve the draft budget 2023-24 draft financial plan. What have we got here? Approve the draft budget 2023-2024, the draft financial plan 2023-24, and the draft operating budget by business unit, with the following amendments: a rate rise of 2% and a reduction of the overall sterilised cat and dog registration income of $157,370. The removal of 3 pathway trainee positions with a reduced expenditure of $229,113. Further reduction of the CEO's consultancy expenditure of $45,000, and a deferral of $750,000 in capital expenditure for the racecourse grandstand from the 2023-2024 budget to the 2024-25 budget. Be tabled and initialed by the chairperson for identification. Be the budget prepared by council for the purpose of section 94(1) of the Local Government Act 2020, the Act, and be endorsed for 21 days public exhibition period. The fees and charges schedule be included as part of the draft budget 2023-2024, reflective of sterilised cat and dog registration fee reduction of I don't know if that's correct in its way. It says that $54 to $30, and pensioners sterilised cat and dog registration from $27 to $20. The draft financial plan 2023-2024 to 2023-2034, and draft operating budget by business unit 2023-2024 be endorsed for a 21-day public exhibition period, and a report on feedback from the public exhibition period be submitted to council meeting scheduled for the 26th of June 2023.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Quilty, Councillor Hall.
I'm putting forward a 2% rate increase instead of a 3.5 increase in the council rates for the 2023-2024 rating year. No services will be cut, and we will have a budget surplus of $925,000. The Ratepayers Association of Victoria recently did research on all the councils' rates across Victoria, and Wodonga was listed 17th highest out of 79 councils. The MAV website listed Wodonga Council's 7 highest back in 2016. This was based on a medium valued residential property, including waste charges. We have come some way in addressing our rates over the years, but I believe work is still needed going forward, and it's very easy to become complacent and lose control of spending and costs, especially when you consider some of our other larger regional councils are somewhat more affordable than us and have quite considerable expenditures which Wodonga Council doesn't have, like aged care and the state government landfill levy. I also include in this motion a cut to the dog and cat registrations. The fees are projected to rise to $55 for a D-sex dog and cat, and rise to $27.50 for pensioners. I propose the registration fees for dogs and cats be $30 and $20 for pensioners. Back in October 2020, 22 Council's animal management policy came up to Council. In the resolution adopted and supported by all councillors was a review of the cost of our dog and cat registrations during this year's budget process. I've also mentioned before, Wodonga has the highest pet registrations in our region. Most of the people want to do the right thing to comply and register their pets, but it is becoming very expensive. Pets are a valuable part of many people's health and well-being. Wodonga Council, as with Towong, Indigo Shire and Greater Hume, all have contracted their pound services to the Albury Council's Animal Management Centre, yet we charge our residents the most for our pets registrations of all of them. In 2018, Council looked to contract out our pound services. It was to provide a cheaper alternative, but our pet owners saw none of the benefits in their pet registration costs going forward. I propose we also remove the 3 trainee positions. Wodonga Council employee expenses will increase by 2.7 million over this year, an extra 8.5% from last year. I highlight these are not existing positions, they are new positions that have been added to the 23-24 budget. They will cost an approximate $230,000 to our employee costs. This would be ongoing in future budgets. With tight monetary conditions going forward, I believe it is prudent we take this expenditure out. I propose to reduce the CEO's expenditure on consultancies by $45,000 from the CEO's consultancy budget, and Council defer the $750,000 capital expenditure for the racecourse grandstand from the 23-24 budget to the 24-25 budget. We need to investigate where we go with this issue going forward, and it makes sense to defer the money allocated for it until we complete these inquiries. With a 3.5% increase, that would add an extra $82.17 to the average rates. With a 2% rate rise, that would add an extra $50.76 to the rates. These figures are for average assessments, not including waste charges, which are to rise by 3% a bit more for waste levy charge. For example, businesses, commercial occupied, rating category, based on the average assessment, with a 2% rate rise, would be $90.50 lower than the 3.5%. This would depend on valuations, of course. I see this as a win for business across Wodonga. I admit I've aimed to be fair and responsible with these changes. Our debt is the lowest it has been in many, many years, which is a good position to be in with the environment of rising interest rates. As a Wodonga ratepayer who pays substantial amounts of rates in Wodonga, I speak with many people at grassroots level. I'm told by many they are struggling to keep up with the rising costs of living, bank interest rates and inflationary pressures which people are doing tough. Over 32% of our homeowners have mortgage. This means current interest rate rises would be having a real impact on their household budgets. One of the major banks said today they're seeing GFC levels of mortgage defaults starting to come through. I would also like to add that in our council plan, one of the visions was for a growing city that is affordable. I believe that keeping our rates to a minimum is a must if we achieve this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Councillor Quilty. Questions?
Thank you. Okay. Now, question 1. Councillor Hall's motion is talking about deferring the expenditure of $750,000 racecourse grandstand. However, there is at item 7.13 racecourse grandstand discussion. If this motion goes up, what are we going to do about this item? Is it going to just be, we're not going to discuss it, or how are we going to handle it? Thank you. Second question straight away. Thank you. And the second question, there was a conversation during budget deliberations, but I would like possibly the mayor to direct this question to an appropriate officer to refresh our memory and also inform a little bit better the people who haven't heard about it. The trainee positions, what area of the councils are these positions sought to be created, and what are these trainees going to potentially be doing? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In regard to the deferral of the 750,000 to a future year, it is a budget item, so if council decides later on in the agenda that they're not going to put aside any money for that, then we'll take that out during the consultation period if there's no need for any money for any other component the council recommends on that item. So it is a draft budget. In regards to the trainee positions, council through our Winton review have looked at how we have pathway positions for staff inside the organisation. It is a difficult time to get staff at the moment, and we've allocated 3 positions as a starting point across the organisation in each of the departments to implement a pathway position, and hopefully this will help us with some of our vacancy positions in the future. It appears these days the main way that you can attract people to your area is to have people that already work in the organisation and sponsor them to do further studies. So we may have an administration in the building area, for instance. It's difficult to get building surveyors, and that may be an opportunity for someone with some expertise to do a bit of extra study and stay on in Wodonga in a more senior job in the future. So that was the theory behind the pathway positions. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any speakers? Councillor Poulton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As we can see, we can't even get microphones that afford to work, so we're going to be in a heck of a pickle in about 5 years from now with the compounding impacts of decisions we make. What I will say is it's going to be sad if the community don't speak up loud and clear about this, because ultimately this is not about sport, it's not about business, it's not about community groups. If the community just allow a 2% budget to go through, which has happened in the past, and we constantly talk about lack of engagement, it's going to be a sad day for this city, and I'd like everybody to write today's date on the back of their palm now. Somewhere it won't wash off, maybe in permanent marker, so you can go back and go, I remember I was sitting there in that chamber, I was watching online, and that guy who's a bit of a fruitcake told me this had happened. Because this city will go backwards. Despite our best efforts, despite the investment at Logic, despite the commitment to make sure we get the return out there on the community, which this council for 2 years now has been trying to make sure that happens, which will put downward pressure on residential rates. That was the vision and the strategy of a council group back when the community kicked back against that, right? So it's a sad, sad night as I sit here, because I do know we're better than this. It feels nice. It's a warm feeling to say we're going to cut the registrations for pet owners that are doing the right thing. Isn't it sad we have to charge them because there's a lot of people that don't do the right thing? I think it's great, Councillor. I honestly think that's a great move. It's very warm, it's very fuzzy, I like it. The thing I'm worried about, and there'll be the community grants conversation later, but what I'm worried about is we're asking people to give us less because they're struggling, and we're about to go into this phase of not giving places like Food Share or other people the chance to help our struggling community because we can't afford to do it. So just let that sink in for a second. So we're going to be the heroes, but then we're not going to be able to afford to help anyone, because the other organisations that rely on us won't be able to afford to help anyone. I just find, whilst it's a very complex, demanding and difficult process to go through a budget in any organisation, I just honestly don't think this council group's considered the ramifications down the track. It's as simple as that, councillors. I really don't think, despite the best efforts of the officers to paint the picture, to make it as simple for us all to follow, we haven't done that as well as we could on behalf of the community. And I'll just go back to one of the pieces of information we've been supplied. 49 councils in Victoria were questioned what they were going to take for the rate increase this year. We're about to do something, write the date down again, because we're about to do something monumental. We're going to be potentially one, if this goes through and the community don't say anything, we're going to be one of 2 councils out of 49 surveyed in Victoria that are going to take 2% or less. So 43 of the respondents out of 49 councils said they're taking the 3.5% rate cap. Now tell me, what do the professional staff and the councillors in each of those councils know better than us here? That's what I want to know, because I think they're people we need to work with. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Poulton. Any other councillors? Councillor Lowe?
Not sure how I follow that, but I'll give it a go. It's very well said. I can't support this motion tonight because largely, mostly, and actually not even largely, mostly, all of me agrees with Councillor Poulton and what he's said. We've got a 2050 vision coming up. We've talked about sustainable futures. We've talked about creating opportunities. We talked about getting behind our businesses and what we can do. We've identified what we need to do to create downward pressure. But with a 2% rise, we won't be able to do any of that. We won't have the sustainability. This might be more of a question than anything, but you identified, Councillor Hall, that we've got a 1.47 million surplus this year. But what's... Yeah, you did, because you said taking the couple of $100,000 out still made us $880,000 in front for the year, I think it was. But what's the long-term effect of having only a 2% rise? What's it do for us in the future? When do we turn from not being in a surplus, because we've been financially responsible so far to create the surplus? What's the tripping point from having a 2% reduction now to when we're not in surplus? It's a question you can come back to and have it on notice. But my fear tonight is we're talking about rate rises and rates, and I agree with you all. It's up to us to put that downward pressure on it, but we've all got a cost of living we need to do, but so do those in our community that don't pay rates. And we get just as much out of them through their volunteerism and their work in the community as what we do from the ratepayer as well. So what services are we going to cut from them to appease a couple? There's just a few questions that I have. So hopefully the community have the option now to ask their own questions and maybe suggest something for us councillors to take on note, because I note in one of the reports, you brought up a graph before that we went to the community and community engagement and asked them specifically about certain grants and things, and 19 of them, even though the community grants is coming up in the future, this all forms part of it. It's what money do we have available for our community? And I'm seeing a severe lack of strategic direction here, so thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Councillor Simpendorfer.
Thank you. I won't say too much more because it has already been said, but the dominating conversation point that's going to be there is going to be what the residential rates are and what that decision is going to be. These other things that have been discussed around the pet registration, the traineeships, noting the CEO mentioned it was a Winton review, so it isn't the CEO, it's a separate review that is trying to implement pathways for the kids of our city that need jobs, for our kids and their future. Now, I'll get to the facts as well. So not diminishing the work done by all the team at Finance, but the former Director of Finance, who's no longer with us, was certainly an advocate for the rate increase as suggested. Our temporary Director said the same thing, and now our current Director. So all three directors with the financial acumens and degrees and their whole staff recommend 3.5, and we're going to go for 2. I'll write the date down as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Simpendorfer. Councillor Chamberlain.
Yes, this is always going to be a tough decision. I think we're being a little bit over dramatic in stating things like the city's going to go backwards. I have every confidence in the staff who've done a fantastic job and done a hell of a lot of work, and I do appreciate it. And they've been very accommodating in going through and helping us to go through what we need to do in order to achieve a 2% rate rise as opposed to a 3.5. As I said before, the important thing from my perspective is, and one of the things I ran for in the original council election and then have been lucky to be elected on account back, it was for rate restraint. Downward pressure on rates means downward pressure on rates, and I'm confident that we, going forward, can continue to provide the services that the people of Wodonga expect and deserve. One of the other things is obviously the major points is that the pet registrations. Wodonga traditionally, and again, we have the opportunity of looking over the river, and their pet registrations is a fraction of what ours is. Ours is one of the highest pet registrations in the state and has been for some time. And I think it's about time that we showed a bit of, as I said before, something to allow the people of Wodonga to get behind and trust us that we're going to show restraint and we're going to provide them with the services and infrastructure they require, but we're going to do it responsibly, and this is part of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. I'd like to exercise the position that is given to me under the governance rules to speak and speak last, given that the seconder has reserved. That becomes third last. There's a couple of things about this. The first thing is this budget is not something that's picked out of the sky, and it's a credit to the staff that we have in this organisation who can professionally go about these things. They can deal with the various options that come out of each of the councillors through the process of preparing a budget, and they can come up with what their recommendations are based on their position and feeling about how things should work, and they can come up with a professionally created budget that reflects the requirements of other councillors. This document is not a document that's ill-conceived. It's equally as well conceived as the other alternative. And there could have been many other alternatives that could have been brought into play as well that would have been equally as well conceived. There's just so much more to fiscal responsibility and sustainability than simply putting the hand in the taxpayer or the ratepayer's pocket. We can look at, and we must look at, because we know that there's things coming into the future, we must look at ways of cutting the cloth, ways of being clever about how we go about things, ways of picking the important services that our community wants to hang on to and find those services that might now be outdated or might be less of an issue or might be able to be delivered by some other means that we don't have to continue to pay for. And we can come up with budget outcomes that create downward pressure on rates as well as maintaining the levels of services and so on that we think are required. And this budget that we're discussing and debating right now, in my belief, is one of the things that the staff have put together that does all those things really well. And I think it's an absolute credit to our people that they can go and do these sort of things, even though they may not believe that that's the best outcome in the long term, or they may have different philosophical approaches. The fact of the matter is the opportunity was asked for to have a position where we could look at the recurrent expenditure as well as look at the increase in revenue, rather than just go to the increase in revenue as a response and as a solution to all of the problems. We certainly recognise that into the future there's going to be some really strong headwinds because of the different recurrent budget matters such as renewals and maintenance of assets, that we've been adding assets to this community through urban growth, through wonderful projects that we've been doing here over the last 12 or 15 years, or maybe a little longer. There's some fantastic things that we've added to this community, but those things all have a cost that goes with them, and we have to go and do things about that. Thank you. I'll pass over to the seconder. Sorry, just a moment. Question, Councillor Poulton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question in regards to the 2% budget model that has been created secondarily for consideration. What data or what evidence have we got other than people saying to us that in the community that they might like a lesser rate increase? what data or evidence determined that 2% figure?
One of the roles of councillors, Councillor Pulton, one of the roles of councillors is to listen to the comments and the statements that are being made by the community. And there's two components on how we need to deal with that sort of stuff. The first component is take the data on board, but we also need to take the political implications of all the decisions we make on board. That's the role of the 7 of us that sit around this table. And there's been very clear feedback through various different sources in our community to say that rates increases need to be kept on the downward pressure, and it's a combination of balancing all those things out as to how that 2% figure was reached. It was also part of the process that was gone through by our staff. They were prepared to even do a couple more options if that was what was done, and the outcome at the 2% gave us the balanced position that we have. Councillor Quilty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you all the speakers, and especially thank you to the finance staff who prepared so many reports for us. Yes, 2% figure does not come from the ceiling. Our wonderful staff have given us lots of information, including an A3 sheet, which ran 3 reports side by side with 3.5%, 2%, 1.5%. I initially threw a cat amongst pigeons and asked what about 0 rate rise, but very soon it was pretty clear that the figure somewhere in the ballpark of between 1.5 and 2% was going to be the lowest sustainable one without a review of services. So 2% is not 0%, but I believe it is a sustainable figure. Giving to community groups such as food share and the likes has been mentioned before. I think it is a commendable initiative. However, we have, depending on how this meeting and various items on the agenda goes, we have a potential to make this process part of the budget, which will allow greater community participation in deciding which volunteer and community groups parts of the city budget go for, if at all. And most dearly to my heart, any rate money that may be left in ratepayers' pockets may be able to go to the charities and community groups of the ratepayers' choice, which I believe is how it should be done. Councillor Poulton, I don't think you're a fruitcake. The report, Councillor Poulton has quoted, thank you for providing that amongst lots of other information. It has been very helpful in finding out what happens in the state of Victoria. However, out of 48 councils mentioned in the report, I believe only 7 of those councils were regional cities. Please correct me if I'm wrong, I'm talking from memory. And probably not saying that we should have been given that report. We've already been given too much, not too much, a lot, but yeah, it's usually helpful to look at cities with similar sizes and circumstances rather than metro interface, large rural, small rural, regional cities, etc. So it's still great to see what's happening in our state overall, and it is helpful in general in making budget and other decisions. As for the, thank you. Every business we go, we see shortages of staff, so I hope the kids will be all right looking for jobs. So I will be supporting the motion put up by Councillor Hall. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Quilty. Councillor Hall. Question, Councillor Lowe.
Just Councillor Hall, just with the reduction of the pathways fees and just having some experience at running businesses myself and knowing if you don't invest into your staff and provide pathways and opportunities for them, the risk of losing them is far more costly than the investment that you put into them. I'm just wondering what your thoughts are, or with reduction in this pathways and these opportunities for people, what is that cost on the organisation? And I believe, through you, Mr Mayor, to the CEO, that we're one of the larger employers in Wodonga as well. So I think I'm just trying to understand the removal of the pathway system.
I decided to remove those because there's 5 new positions in the proposed budget from the staff. Our costs have blown out by over $2.7 million. And I think at this stage we really need to take a look at where we are and start reining in some of the costs. You know, like it's easier to just say, oh, put those items in, but at the end of the day, they've got to be paid for. And they're new positions. We can live without them. There's supposed to be low unemployment in Australia at the moment. So maybe at some stage down the track when we are in a better financial position, yes, but I believe we need to look at our employee costs going forward.
Councillor Lowe, what's the same question or new question? Thank you, Councillor Lowe. I don't think the same question being asked again is appropriate. Councillor Lowe, I had difficulty actually understanding the question, and I was going to ask you to clarify it before Councillor Hall made it obvious that she was prepared to respond, so I let her respond. I will give you an opportunity to clarify the question, but if I don't understand it, I'll be asking you to clarify it even better. Thank you. To you, Mr. Councillor Lowe.
What is the cost to council for not having these positions in both return on investment and the inability for the council to move forward?
I'm not sure that I fully understand the objective of your question, Councillor Lowe.
Yeah, the objective of my question is to find out if enough thought has been put into removing the pathway system to the cost for the community moving forward.
I know what you're saying, but I'm not going to be able to provide you with that information because it depends on who you speak with, and you know it's a matter of an opinion. That's your opinion. Other people have other opinions. Other people like the idea of reining in our costs in that area, considering they have gone up by 2.7 million, over 2.7 million in 12 months. I think it's prudent as a councillor that we have a look at that, you know. So that's as best as I can answer them.
Okay, in the interest of expediency and moving the meeting, I think we've explored those things. Councillor Hall, to close the debate, please.
Okay, couple of things that were brought out. I'm a long-term resident. I've been here over 33 years. I've seen 6-7% rate increases year after year. This has had a compounding effect, and dealing with it some years later is what we are still dealing with now. Admittedly, there's been some good work done, but it's put us in a pretty high position rate rise in the rate rises going forward in this state. We're still 17th as far as I can see. Rates do have a compounding effect, so when you're putting up rates at 6-7% yearly, they compound, and not like the budget, that compounds too with deficits. Now, I looked back the last two prior budgets, the projections were both different to what this budget is. So forecasting and modelling is extremely difficult, and they change year to year. I can give you the figures. They're different from 2 years ago's different projection as we've got, and I probably think going forward we're going to have different projections next year. Modelling changes, forecasts change. It's hard to predict. So at this stage, we've got, with my budget proposal, we've got a $925,000 surplus. I think it's a good position. I think we do need to do reviews. The winter report that the CEO had engaged mentioned that was probably a good thing for the council to have a look at and review our services and what levels we want to provide. I think that is a good idea. And, you know, we have the same comments every year about the budget. I'm trying to make it affordable. That is part of our council plan vision for Wodonga to be affordable. I don't see being 17th highest in the state as at that stage yet. I think it needs to be addressed responsibly. That's what I'm trying to do. That's what councillors are trying to do, and I put my budget forward.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. I put that motion. All those in favour? Councillor Quilty, Councillor Mildren, Councillor Hall, Councillor Chamberlain. Those against? Councillor Lowe, Councillor Poulton, Councillor Simpendorfer. The motion is carried. The next item of business is the March 2023 Quarterly Finance Report. Do I have a motion? Councillor Quilty. Your motion?
I'm sorry, as per recommendation.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hall, Councillor Quilty.
My apologies. We have so many reports that it's a good thing. I found okay, out. Thank you. The financial report is for January to March quarter. It's got some variations which include a. Oh, thank you. Technical difficulties. Sorry, I won't be speaking much on it. A number of variations that I'm happy with, and I'm satisfied with the report and happy to support it. Thank you.
Councillor Hall.
I don't really have anything to add to that other than I support the recommendation put forward.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Any other councillors? Councillor Quilty, do you have anything to close?
Nothing. Okay.
Thank you. I therefore put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. The next item of business is the draft Wodonga Revenue and Rating Plan. Do I have a motion? Councillor Simpendorfer, as per the recommendation, do I have a seconder? Councillor Lowe. Councillor Simpendorfer.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Thank everyone on the Revenue and Rating Plan Reference Group, and some are here tonight, I think, from what I can see. And a special thanks to Councillor Quilty for stepping up as chair for a number of meetings where I was unavailable. But this is how community engagement was my first one as chair. It was great to see so much input, varying degrees of thoughts, and thrashing out a lot of that rating plan reference group work that is there before you now. So again, just like the budget last piece, now's the time the community to step up, get involved, make your comments, and get that feedback to us, which will come back to us in this regard, I think in the July meeting. But look, I just want to highlight the great work from the group over that time, and I'm sure Councillor could reiterate as well. Just some really good, strong conversation around a community from a broad section of aged care, from small business, large business, a lot of experience over the time in those rating reference groups, and just like the rest of us here, homeowners. So great cross-section of our community. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Lowe. Anybody else wish to speak? Councillor Quilty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I won't say much, and I would like indeed to reiterate my thanks to the community members who came and volunteered several nights of their life to talk to us about the rating strategy. We did have a good cross-section of the community. I extend my special thanks to council staff who accommodated the request to go for second rounds of for the reference group to make the cross-section representative of the community. With with results, and I would like to hear the opinion of my fellow councillors. Thank you. It's not.
Sorry, I'm having a little bit of audio problem here. I assume it was me you called?
Oh, there it is. Sorry, Councillor Chamberlain, we're having technology problems. Councillor Chamberlain, you wish to speak?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank the people of the group who consulted on this and had major discussions. They've done a very good job, and the councillors who were involved in this group, particularly given the fact that the timing of the valuations of rating properties was unable to be taken into account because it arrived well after this group had finished. But they've still done an excellent job under difficult circumstances, and I'll be supporting this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. Anybody else wish to speak? Councillor Hall.
The only thing that I noted, and it was discussed when I was part of the rating strategy committee the last time, is the differentials on residential vacant land. Now that's at 2%. There are many young people, not just young people, people that have aspirations to own their own land, own their own home, buy the land where they choose to want to live. And then there's probably there's a process of trying to save enough for a deposit to build the house. And they're hit with the differentials of 2, which is double that of residential properties, residential occupied properties. I thought it was something that I would have liked to have probably really dealt with back when I was on the rating strategy committee reference group. It's still gone through much the same as it was then. And I'll be interested to I'm going to support the recommendation, but I'd be interested to hear any feedback if that is something that people think could be something that could be changed. Thank you.
Councillor Poulton.
Very quick and easy one. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wish I had brought a copy of it with me. Vacant property rates notice personally issued to me last year was actually less than the year before, dollar figure. So I think the fact that we're collecting less money from people in that 12-month period, we're now making decisions to try to potentially do a similar sort of thing. I'd just ask people to stop talking percentages and perhaps have a look at their rates notice and look at the actual dollar value year on year. Because I think it sort of got swept under the rug a little bit. This council made some decisions last year on the fly and on the hop because we had to, based on what the market conditions around us had done, and fairly and evenly distribute rates amongst ratepayers. And I think we got it right. If you're a ratepayer, we went backwards, or at least mine did. So some might have gone up, but I think we just need to really pay attention to that to make sure we're not selling ourselves short. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Poulton. Councillor Simpendorfer.
Thank you. Just to make it easy for everyone else, the recommended proposed rates differentials are at page 105 of 1,162. Go there, have a look.
Thank you. I put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. The next item on the agenda is item 7.6, Community Grants Program Review. Do I have a motion? No motion? Councillor Coulty. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hall. Councillor Coulty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The current recommendation is that Council consolidates all community grant funding and memorandum of understanding into one annual process that is aligned with the budget submission process effective January 2024, and that current memorandum of understanding and community partnership agreements continue until the end of each agreement. I'm going to vote in support of this motion because I believe that making a distribution of ratepayers' funds to a part of budget deliberations increases largely the transparency of this process and most importantly, increases the opportunity for the community to have their say. We, as we discussed in earlier items, we have a fantastic budget process starting a few months prior to the draft budget and then with a month for community to comment on the draft budget. And as opposed to the current process that we have now, where it is decided every quarter by council staff based on the criteria approved by council who gets the grant. I'm a strong believer of communities and ratepayers' choice of deciding where their hard-earned money goes and contributing whether their time or their hard-earned money to the charities and volunteer groups of their choice. Volunteerism and charity and benevolence is the fabric of the Australian society, and I believe that this decision will help us keep it this way and will help us have the community part of the process of telling us where the money, where custodians of goes to. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Coulty. Councillor Hall.
I'll reserve mine. Yep.
Reserve. Councillor Poulton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just around talking about these community grants, I won't be in support of this motion. I think what we've got and what the community told us through engagement as a current program and platform, and not quite unanimously told us, but a very high majority told us from those few that did engage, and certainly combining that with the feel of what I've seen delivered under all different sorts of grants through this organisation. I don't think we're changing it in the correct way. I don't want to sound dramatic, Councillor Chamberlain. Please don't, please don't confuse my enthusiasm, pride, passion, thankfulness for what these two cities in this community have given us and given me for a life. Not going to be dramatic, but we'll be passionate. Actually, no, I'll be dramatic. Faulty Towers. Everybody's seen Faulty Towers, I think, haven't they? I can't remember the episode, but there's the episode where John Cleese is doing his Faulty Basil. He's doing his thing, dodgily trying to make the most of a bit of, I think it might have been rat poison on veal or something. And the chef was just as shonky as Basil. And the chef says, what the eye don't see, the chef gets away with. Just think about it for a second. What the eye don't see, the chef gets away with. We talk about transparency in this council. We talk about doing things with good structure around it. The Auditor General requires us to do that by law. We've had good sound policies in place. We've had the council in control of how much money we put into that each year and whether we do or don't put money into it. I just don't understand why there's such a big concern around changing it to a yearly function, which when I think of all the check presentations I've had to give to community groups and you speak to them one-on-one and ask them what's actually been delivered and what it's meant to them and whether the process has been easy or hard, I think what we're doing and have been doing for some time and improving as we've gone along has been a really solid way to conduct business. So just remember what the eye don't see, the chef gets away with. Some of these things might come to bite us a little bit later on.
Thank you, Councillor Fulton. Anybody else wish to speak? Councillor Simpendorfer.
Yeah, not as dramatic, but it's just probably reiterating, I think, what's been coming in from the community over the last few days and probably beyond that, through my role of having to do the mayor's role and the deputy mayor for that time, is how much this does impact on our community and what percentage of we are asking from our budgetary process. I don't see that bringing that into one stream may be beneficial for us as a council, but the overall benefit to the community clubs that may miss that for whatever reason and opening up to 2 or 3 streams throughout the year will draw in more applications from our community. So I'm actually going the other way and I think we need to probably be extending our reach there and asking for more applications from our community to come in on varying places. Yes, we've been able to do it. I don't think it's broke, so I don't think we need to try and change it. It's working. Our community are loving what they're seeing. So I won't be supporting it as it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Simpendorfer. Councillor Lowe.
My fear, as the way it stands, if we move this into the budgetary process, which is an irony in itself since we already have it in the budgetary process. We allocate a set amount each year and that's the pool that we play with. We don't have an open-ended budget in the community grant section or anything like that. We just have a pool of predetermined in the drafted budget, set aside with a policy and framework around it that was updated July 22 last year, I think, by this council, just in response to the Vago report there, just to add to some even tighter security measures around what we already had in place. There's so many checks and balances these community groups have to go through to get a grant that by the time it comes to us, we should just be acknowledging what it is anyway. And I'm just going to point out a couple of facts for us all. The return on investment of volunteerism is high. Volunteering Australia calculates that volunteering yields a 450% economic, social and cultural return on investment value to Australia. Annually, for every dollar invested in volunteering, applying this value, 450% return on investment, this council's community grants program of $103,040 in grants per year, average per year over the past 5 years, the return on investment is around $566,000 per year, or $2.8 million over the 5 years. The value of supporting the volunteer-reliant sector, e.g. through community grants, can also be in terms of replacement costs. For example, that it would cost a not-for-profit or community group if they had to pay someone to do the same work. The replacement value in volunteers is valued at $46.62 per hour. And Wodonga Hearts, I'll use as an example, reported that in 2022, their members and volunteers contributed more than 5,200 hours to club activities, such as coaching, umpiring, leading training sessions, running community programs, and operating the canteen, etc. The total value of the 5,200 hours at $42.62 per hour is over $240,000 per annum of volunteer value just in one organisation. And I'll highlight that because it sounds like what we're trying to do is put it into one streamline to actually take the community out of community. So I won't be supporting this motion tonight because I actually, like you, Councillor Simpendorfer, and I will actually use Business Wodonga actually because they're sitting here tonight. By changing it to a 12-month process, we take away the agility of organisations that haven't got the resources sometimes or the know-how within their organisations to actually plan 12 months, 24 months out. So I think we need to keep agility within this program. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Councillor Chamberlain.
Sorry, I think I will be supporting this, although I'd like to ask, if I may, for an amendment and an extra point to be added, if I could ask the mover and the seconder. My third point being that a further report being presented to the council that sets out a governance framework for the granting of community funds through the annual budget process. The reason for this is, again, streamlining is maybe correct, but it does simplify for people requesting grants as to how they go about it and when they do it. And it allows us to be targeted in what we do with the ratepayers' money and give it to those most qualified, justified in receiving that money. And to do it as part of the budget process is, I think, appropriate. We're not looking to cut the community grant as such. We may look to vary them a little, but I think we need to do it more effectively and allow our staff to be able to handle the way these submissions have been processed through the system. Thank you.
Thank you. Mover and seconder, you've heard Councillor Chamberlain's request. Do you agree with the change, or do we ask Councillor Chamberlain to move it as an amendment?
Mr. Mayor, I agree with the change. To tell you the truth, I was actually initially going to put a similar alternative motion to ask as point 3 to have guidelines and policies reviewed. However, I think it's a good way to formalize it. Thank you.
Councillor Hall, accepted. Can the motion be amended or changed accordingly? Thank you. So we have that motion, which is modified from the previous motion. So any councillors that may have spoken that want to look at it in a different light because of the addition of that, anybody wish to speak to that change? Question, Councillor Simpendorfer.
Through you, Mr Mayor, to either the CEO or others, the governance framework that's been suggested, the framework, as I understand it, is quite rigid as it is at the moment, with applications and a committee that sits before they even get to us as councillors. So what is the new governance framework? And I guess the debate that was just, or the debate around that additional point was just heard, that we need a governance framework, but my question is, don't we already have that in place?
Thank you, Councillor Simpendorfer. My understanding is we don't actually have a governance framework in the context of what Vago has put us into. There's a few other bits and pieces to accommodate the change into the budget process. That's my understanding of what that was all about and what was discussed in our briefings, but Um, Yep. I'll refer to Simone. She can give us some more information. Thank you.
The VAGO recommendations were actually reviewed last year when we reviewed the community grant program in the middle of 2022. The VAGO recommendations were incorporated into the revised framework at that point in time. So there is an existing governance framework that does articulate the process and how we go about grants and how we have to ensure that we have advisors who are very clear and at arm's length from the assessment panel and a range of other recommendations.
Thank you. That's clarified it. I think fundamentally the change is to incorporate it into the budget process. Okay. There's a couple of things that I think I need to put into the conversation before we have the closure. Yeah, you reserved. Yes, afterwards. Yep. Firstly, this process is not designed to stop community grants, contrary to what some community members might believe. It's all about putting it into a clearer, transparent process and a process where there is opportunity for the community to give feedback on the proposals. If you go through the budget process, there's opportunities for different community groups to make comment about the expenditures of the monies, and this is going to be and is now and always will be a competitive process. There isn't going to be enough money, no matter how much the pot might be, to go around to every single one of these things we might like to give funds to. So fundamentally, we want to open it up to a wider array of community organisations that can actually get grants. It will be open to the community coming back in the budget consultation processes to say, well, we think it should be something different to that, or we think your priorities are wrong, or whatever it might be. So this process is not about going in to try and cut out community grants. It's to broaden them and to make it more open and transparent and to put a greater level of accountability into the process. What this does is it gets done within the eye of the community, whereas the current system we use, it comes back to council after it's been assessed under a guideline that's and a set of governance rules that are put in place for it. But this is more open in the community. So I think we're heading in the right direction. It's never going to be perfect. There's always going to be things that'll upset or get out of control. But this is broadening the outlook. By doing it through the budgetary process, there's a higher probability that the council will choose to give more money than perhaps they would if they had a fixed pool. The other side of the fixed pool is you fix a pool and you mightn't get the applications, but you know, in all aspects of government expenditures, if you've got a pot of money, you've got to spend it each financial year, because if you don't get it the next year. There's all those sorts of things that would be taken out of the equation by doing it through the budget process. So I think it's a good idea. I think we should run it, and if it doesn't work, or if there's things that need tweaking and fixing, we fix them as we go. Councillor Hall, you reserved?
Yes, I'd just like to make the comment that I support community grants and always will. It makes sense to do it through the budget process, especially when we're looking at our financial position. As Councillor Milden, the Chair, said, that sometimes we might be in a better position and we might be able to put in more. But quite often, monies come back that aren't used. So then that's sort of accounting for it. No one is talking about not supporting volunteers. We have in our budget an allocation of $102,000, 652. It's for a volunteer coordinator and for strategy plans and programs, events and festivals. So there's no talk about not supporting volunteers. We are absolutely committed to supporting volunteers in this council, and that won't change. So I think that's a bit of a furphy. It wouldn't be in the budget if we didn't. And I support the recommendation that is put forward from, are we putting in? Yeah, the 3 recommendations. Thank you.
Question, Councillor Poulton?
I'm just a little confused because I may have confused people. So I've probably confused myself along with others. But so in this motion, is there a sure-clad guarantee that for as long as we all sit in this room, community groups are still going to have a pool of funds as they've had access to multiple times a year, just now simply once per year? Is that right? So it's a sure-clad guarantee that the community grants will exist forever.
Councillor Poulton, I don't think there's such a thing as a sure-clad guarantee on anything, but this is locked in, and this year's a transition year because there's a whole range of things that we have to do, and in the projected budgets into the future, there is the community grants proposed to be included. Now, the way I see it and understand it is it's not going to be a set fund of X number of dollars. It will be projects looked at on its merits and allocations given to plus or minus whatever the amounts might have been. If it's $100,000 presently, there's nothing to say that, you know, in a future budget process that there's projects that warrant funding that exceed that and might be 130 or 150 or whatever else. My understanding is that's the way this is proposed to be structured and set up, not to have a fixed global amount. Some years it might be less than what we have now as the fixed global amount, but other years it could be considerably more based on merit. Hope that answers the question. Yeah, Councillor Quilty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, councillors and staff, and a special thanks to community groups who have contributed to this decision by expressing their opinions and asking their questions. I would like to reiterate what Councillor Hall has said. We have a substantial allocation in the budget towards having a volunteer coordinator, which I believe illustrates this council's commitment to continue to work with volunteers. Thank you, Councillor Lowe, for providing the figures of what return on volunteerism is. The figures were excellent, and I believe the general sentiment of Councillor Lowe was above and beyond the monetary return on what non-monetary value volunteers give their community, their families, and themselves. Everybody who volunteers, myself, for example, included, although my volunteerism history is very small and not worth, hardly worth mentioning at all, we get enjoyment and benefits from volunteering. Finding a new job, finding new friends, finding exciting hobbies, or making the world around us better. So the worth of and value of volunteerism cannot be overestimated. To continue with the Faulty Towers theme, I would like to quote another one. When faced with the American guests asking for Waldorf salad, Basil says, "I'm sorry, I'm afraid we're all out of Waldorfs." Our budget allocation will make sure that we do not run the risk of running out of Waldorfs while taking into the account all the opinions of community groups, members of the community, and volunteers. Thank you.
The debate's been closed. Sorry, Councillor Simonova. There's one other point that the CEO's just raised with me. He suggested I clarify something that I just said. Because of the transitional arrangements that happen from one budget into the next financial year, as in the one that this budget is about, doesn't actually have an allocation of funds, and there's no grant applications that come in for the process. Because there's no grant allocation through the budget process, then next year the grant allocations won't be done in the same manner that's been done. But I'm sure if things were of an urgent nature or things happened that were different, we'd have to have a look at it. So there's no allocation in the budget coming, but it is into the forward future budgets after that. I put the motion. Sorry, I put the motion. All those in favour? Councillor Chamberlain, Councillor Hall, Councillor Mildren, Councillor Quilty. Those against? Councillor Simpendorfer, Councillor Poulton, Councillor Lowe. The motion is carried. The next item before us tonight is Community Impact Grants February 2023, the allocation of grants for the last stage for this year. Do I have a motion? Councillor Poulton. Seconded Councillor Simpendorfer. Councillor Poulton.
Look, no surprises to my councillor colleagues here or off the back of, I guess, the previous item that we debated. Well accustomed to having seen money to put to good use in the past. And it's good to see community groups consider council as an opportunity for them to come forward with their hat out and hope for some help, and that we show the respect and the understanding to these community groups that they deserve in each round application that's gone before us in recent and far previous years. So has my full support as recommended, and thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Simpendorfer, reserve. Any other speakers? Councillor Lowe.
Yeah, I'll be supporting this tonight, and I won't go back over my previous information about what value we get out of volunteerism and that in our community, and what community grants and impact grants give our community as a whole. So, but I'll just highlight that on our website, we have a document library that outlines our community grants policy, our community impact grants program guidelines, our community infrastructure and equipment grant guidelines, our community partnership grant guidelines, and our community grants program budget facts. So if anyone is interested in looking them up, they're all there on the website for them. But the thing I like about the current format, and with some improvement, is the ability, and I'm going to use you again, Business Wodonga, since you're sitting there. They've seen a need for our community about jobs. All our employers were finding it hard to get employees over the past few years due to COVID and many other reasons. And they've seen an opportunity to connect employers and employees together. And without having the ability to do something on the fly, that wouldn't have got off the ground, nor would it have been a success where they were able to do it again and give the benefit to our business community after that. So I thank you while you're sitting there for that. But I highlight this because I highlight the need for agility, and the previous decision is lacking from that, but I'll be supporting what we've got. Thank you.
Any other speakers? Councillor Quilty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In all honesty, I don't know how to vote. The recommendation allocates funds to a number of foundations and organizations such as Center Against Violence, Multicultural Exercise Program, Ultimate Frisbee, Silent Disco, Fine Music Association, a land care group. I would have had much easier time voting on them separately. However, I was afraid to suggest such a blasphemous thing given 1,162 pages on the agenda. I will be a lot more comfortable with the process of that we voted on just before. So I'm really keen to listen, or was really keen to listen to the debate to make my final decision. Whichever way I decide to vote, it won't be a reflection on worthiness of any groups over the others, but a reflection on the way we're currently doing this. Thank you.
Any other speakers? Councillor Hall?
Look, I'm not going to take up too much time. Look, this has been through the process that we've talked about. It's found to be agreed upon by the council staff that they meet that criteria or whatever. It's money that's been allocated in last year's budget, and I will be supporting it.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Councillor Chamberlain?
Yeah, I'll be supporting this. Obviously, these grants have been done under the previous process, and that's appropriate. I'm a bit two-sided, I suppose, on not all of them, but on some of them. But as a package, I think, and they are a package, I will be supporting them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. Councillor Poulton? No, you're reserved. Councillor Simpendorfer reserved.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I appreciate it's a long agenda and names are everywhere, but I'll just thank again, because it looks like it's going to change the process, but thank the staff and the process that's in place here for our impact grants and our infrastructure grants. It is independent, it is rigorous, it is transparent, and these A to F that come up to us tonight have gone through that process and are all deserved, in my view. So I will be supporting it, and some amazing work that will be done there, and I guess we know the impact of the previous decision may have on this. However, I wish all these ones all the very best with what they do and getting the value for our community, but thank the staff and their teams for doing the job they've done for many years. Thank you.
Councillor Poulton to close.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Nothing new to add in terms of debate. I'd just like to thank Councillor Quilty for highlighting those beneficiaries that will be here from this particular round, being the final round done in this way. And I just want to specifically highlight a couple: Ultimate Frisbee, Albury Wodonga Ultimate Frisbee, for anyone that didn't know they exist. What a group to have in your community, to something different. Go and give it a crack. I think that'd be one to go and explore. The Wodonga Primary School doing their Moving Together, which is obviously about health and wellbeing and connectivity and all the rest. Their Silent Disco, which will get $2,900. There's nothing funnier than watching a couple of hundred kids with headphones. They can hear the music and know what they're moving to, but you don't actually know what's going on. It's just people. I saw one on a beach once, and it was the most entertaining thing to watch. It was adults in that case doing that, but that was, oh geez, I've forgotten which it was recently. Thank you, Councillor Simpendorfer. But no, it's a really good outcome for the community. And look, to be honest, I think it'll be sad that this won't be as nimble in the future.
Thank you, Councillor Poulton. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? All those against? Councillor Quilty against. Motion carried. The next item on our agenda is Community Infrastructure Equipment Grants Program for 2023. Do I have a motion? Councillor Simpendorfer, do I have a seconder? Councillor Lowe, Councillor Simpendorfer.
I think most has been said already in the previous couple of debates, but again, A through G here with the mountain bikers, the Cemetery Trust and a utility cart. That's a really, really good piece of equipment that's going to be there that will be, I believe, seating multiple people, not just two, up to four, maybe more, and be able to get some people around the cemetery that may not or may struggle on other times. Native garden nurseries and the Men's Shed. We've seen the work the Men's Shed have done, being awarded, I think, a national award last year, and how much they contribute to our society. So these infrastructure grants and equipment grants go a long way, and I wish, again, every one of them the very best. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe.
probably echo Councillor Simpendorfer's words, and he's right, we've said, but I'll just highlight the Albury Wodonga Yacht Club improved the disability access, and that's about people that have challenges and they need to get from the bank to their craft. And I think it's a good thing that we're supporting, and we're able to give them the opportunity to do that where we can support them. Thank you.
Any other councillors? Councillor Quilty?
Once again, just quickly, the motion proposes to allocate funds to mountain bikes for a maintenance container hub, Wodonga Cemetery Trust for a utility cart, Raiders Junior Football Club, Native Gardens Nursery, Trudwind Road Neighbourhood House, Wodonga Men's Shed, and the Albury Wodonga Yacht Club for improvement disability access, as Councillor Lowe has mentioned. Honestly, if I were just a ratepayer and asked in the budget deliberation process, do I want to all this money to go to all these services, I would say absolutely yes. So in this particular instance, I find it very, very hard to vote on principle of not liking how we do it. Why would I do something that's so very hard? I will support this one. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillors? Councillor Hall?
Just to add again that this has gone through the rigour of assessment. It's in the budget, this year's budget. There are a couple of things in there that I might question, but I'm not going to make a big deal about it. And so I'll be supporting it.
Thank you. Councillor Chamberlain?
Yeah, I'll be supporting this. Again, there's a couple of things I might have a couple of questions of, but certainly for the most part, very deserving. And I hope they get the results that these hard-earned ratepayers' dollars support them for. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. Councillor Poulton?
Wasn't going to on this one, Mr Mayor, but I better. How good is it to see a list of so many different organisations receiving our support and getting tens of thousands of dollars between them just to make our city a fantastic place? I haven't even been to, Cemetery Trust I've been a part of, but you look at all these little groups, you forget how many people there are within our community that require support. And there's a lot of sausage sizzles to make some of this money. In fact, you'd never probably get it done. So well done for them all for being successful, hopefully, as we put it to the vote. But it's fantastic, positive stuff.
Thank you, Councillor Poulton. Councillor Simpendorfer? I've had a request for an adjournment for 5 minutes for a bathroom break, and we'll adjourn the meeting for 5 minutes and pick up at item 7.9 when we come back. Thank you. Who's going to move that way? Councillor Quilty? Councillor Lowe? All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Welcome back from our adjournment. The next item on our list is item 7.9, Flying Fruit Fly Circus MOU. Do I have a motion? Councillor Quilty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to make the following motion, that council enter into an agreement and make 20,000 contribution to Flying Fruit Fly Circus towards the Vaudeville Festival in Wodonga in the year 2023, and that future contributions be subject to the annual budget deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hall, Councillor Quilty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Vaudeville Festival is an exciting event and would be really great to see it happen in Wodonga, and this 20,000 will help ensure that it does happen. However, I'm not prepared, given the financial situation and volatility in the world out there, to commit to 3 years of contributions straight up. I believe that it will be prudent and transparent as well to make further contributions requested part of annual budget. And that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hall.
I'll just reserve, thanks. Oh, sorry.
Reserve. Councillor Poulton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I like the rationale around this particular motion, but I'm also just well aware of how difficult it is to go 12 months at a time. I mean, yeah, council plans are out to 10 years pretty much, so it's not like we don't have to plan that far ahead. And I really think, whilst not a fan of arts and regular consumer of particularly the fruit flies work, I am well familiar that it fits into our category of ensuring that we enable more foot traffic into the centre of our town with this particular project that they put on. And given that we're still in a COVID recovery mode, and given that we're still getting used to mixing with each other and different bits and pieces, and that's not going to fix overnight, I was actually supportive of the recommendation to lock it in for the 3 years so they had certainty. So I'm a little bit torn because I do like the idea of you know, leaving yourself open for a bit of an option to see if it's still worth it in 12 months. But I think we've seen the runs on the board now with these guys. And I just remember last time they set up the hive of activity, like it was not just for the events they put on, but the setup, the pack up, like the city, the heart just came to life when they were working with us. So, and I know that that's sort of a cross-border thing they've got going on, hence the Borderville name. So, I love it. So I'd be happy to lock it in for the 3 years. I'm looking forward to hearing what other people's thoughts are. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Poulton. Other speakers? Councillor Simpendorfer.
Super quick, same thinking as Councillor Poulton. I'm just concerned for them planning moving forward, and that, I guess, was the intention of 3 years, to be able to plan and market, attract those sponsors and other tourism to the area to support such an event. And the KPIs there are not just the one event, it's to engage in the tourism and growing the one border event annually, but also the Christmas event that's done here in Wodonga. So it does make it difficult, and I get the sentiment of putting it before the budget process. But no, I would have supported the 3 years so that Borderville Festival in Wodonga and others have certainty moving forward in that 3 years. So, yeah, similar position. I'd be keen to hear what others think. But if that's the only option we've got on the table, then that's what we may be left with.
Thank you. Other councillors? Councillor Lowe.
Surprise, surprise, but I'm in the same vein as the councillors that have spoken already. And I think we've, the draft budget that got released earlier, where we've taken out the co-create money spending there, could, in my opinion, easily and should be diverted over to this program. I think we can take away from one and give to the other if it's what some of the other councillors are thinking. I just think by removing the surety for the flying fruit fly, will they invest into us as much then? So you got to look at it from both ways. So it's good for our planning, it's good for their planning. I think we've created the budget. I'd like to continue the arts and that within our city centre, and I think it's much needed. And I love watching these guys work, and I love the opportunities it creates as well. So I'll be supporting it in either way, but I prefer to give them a 3-year surety.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Councillor Chamberlain. Councillor Chamberlain, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. I too am a little torn on this one, and I'm cognizant of the fact that the certainty would be helpful for the fruit flies, but I'm also aware of the fact that there is little certainty at the moment. It's a very, awkward financial situation in the country and in fact the world over. And we've got to determine these things accordingly. I think it's absolutely appropriate that we support it this year. And to be honest, I think it will probably still be appropriate to support it next year and the year after. Having said that, I think we need to give ourselves the ability to be able to make a determination. And let's be honest, that determination next year may very well be give them more money, because it is a great event, and hopefully this will give us the flexibility to do it either way. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. We have, Councillor Hall.
Yeah, look, there's just a question through you, Chair. And look, I may have been told this before, but I can't remember. Is this money coming out of our events budget? Yeah.
This budget is currently in the community cultural development budget, in the operational budget, not out of events.
Look, I agree with Councillor Chamberlain. Look, it's a possibility that this will get funding, continual funding, for the next 3 years. But I do believe it should come back to the budget process, especially during times where, there's a bit of unsurety around finances. But I believe it probably will get supported for the 3 years. But I'm only prepared to support it for the next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Councillor Quilty? Okay. In that case, I put the motion. All those in favour? Councillor Simpendorfer, Councillor Quilty, Councillor Mildren, Councillor Hall, Councillor Lowe, Councillor Chamberlain. Those against? Councillor Poulton. The motion is carried. The next item on the agenda is item 7.10, Public Toilet Strategy for 23 to 33. Do I have a motion? Moved Councillor Poulton as recommended. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Simpendorfer, Councillor Poulton.
Going to help you with your timings, Mr. Mayor. Very straightforward. Public Toilet Strategy 23 to 33. If you're interested, please take a look. It will be out for community feedback, so we'll receive a report later on. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Poulton. Councillor Simpendorfer. Any other councillors? Councillor Quilty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know we're trying to finish this meeting. However, I'll say a couple of things. First of all, in my opinion, public toilet strategy is an incredibly important document, only second to budget and council plan. And I would also like to be quick and dramatic in quoting a Russian stand-up comedian who once said, "The public toilets are the face of the country." Indeed, what's the first thing you want to do when you get off the plane or train? You want to go to the loo. And what you see is how this country or the city takes care of its citizens and makes sure that safe spaces are created for all community groups, for male, for female, for people identifying themselves otherwise than male and female, for mothers with children, for adults who need assistance changing, and for dads who go out with their daughters and don't have access to family facility, for mothers who go out with their sons and stand outside the male toilet yelling, "Are you all right there?" So I think this policy is reasonably good. It's going to allow us to take care of a lot of practical problems, and I'm really looking forward to wholesome community feedback. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? Councillor Chamberlain?
Yeah, I'd just like to echo those sentiments. Public toilets and those type of facilities are absolutely critical in the town, and we need to consult with the people of Wodonga and see what we need to do about the strategy going forward as how to provide those effectively, because you can't just put them anywhere. You need to put them where they're going to be utilised and they're going to be safe places to do what you need to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. Anybody else? Councillor Poulton?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Just challenge the public to be ultra engaged with us on this one, see if we can break some records for community consultation. That'd be great. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. The next item is 7.11, Committees Policy. Do I have a motion? Councillor Quilty. As Councillor Quilty moved as per the recommendation, do I have a seconder? Councillor Hall. Councillor Quilty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think I have spoken a lot and at length how important I consider the work of committees and delegated committees, how much transparency it adds to the work of the council, and how very helpful, in my view, it is for coordination of work of councillors and staff together. As a member of a current Audit and Risk Committee, I find a lot of value in doing that, and I'm looking forward to hopefully doing more, and I believe that this is a solid and sound policy that allows us to move forward with this. Thank you.
Councillor Hall. Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? Councillor Poulton.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It's a draft policy. It's heading out for public exhibition for 28 days, which is good if this particular recommended motion gets up. I don't think, committees are good and have their purpose, particularly with audit and risk and what have you. I'm just worried about the efficiencies when we go down this line of having heaps of committees for the sake of having a committee, if that's where we end up. Just on the financial impact of an organisation and the drop in productivity on everything else that we're going to try to do on a shoestring budget. Because I can guarantee you, it might be nice for us councillors to go, oh, yep, we'd all love to sit on another committee, but with that comes minutes, with that comes reports, agendas, staff, if we're going to stream it or open to the public. Yeah, there's so many things. It's just not so we have to be, if we're going down that line, be selective, have a purpose, and make sure that we're not here just to have a gas bag. Because I think last time I checked, the executive team of this organisation is about $1,000 an hour, give or take. And I think we need to make sure that we're really using our time wisely together with our staff. That's just the executive team. So think of the others that have to attend from time to time. We're not expecting them to do it for nothing. And I think as councils, we just better not let this get to our head if this is successful and just start pulling out committees left, right and centre if that's what the community tell us we should do. And we need to make sure we've got good parameters around that. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Poulton. Anybody else wish to speak? Councillor Simpendorfer.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This one gives me great concern. I know it's going out for public exhibition. It's a shame the media's left to not cover that, and they're going to cover, obviously, the budget item. But But, you know, this is, just because it can be done that way, should it be done that way? I look forward to seeing the report that comes up that shows the evidence as to why this is more effective and efficient, because we know there's views around the room and with councillors around delegated committees. I hope the community gets involved, gives us their thoughts on how they want us to run. Again, another level of bureaucracy. Is it required? Is it not? And the cost of that. Yes, transparency, and the decisions that are happening always come through the council at this stage anyway. So the transparency is there. It just gives me concern why this is thrown in amongst all this other noise at the moment. So I'll be keen to see when it comes back to us and what the intention, and hopefully no conflict of any councillors. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Simpendorfer. Anybody else wish to speak? No? Councillor Quilty. Oh, sorry, Councillor Chamberlain.
Yeah, I'll be supporting this. I don't think it's carte blanche to be throwing in committees left, right and centre. I think there's a couple of examples, and one of which we discussed at the last meeting, where I think committees will be appropriate, at the very least, to ensure that the direction is given in a transparent manner without being behind closed doors to the staff of where we want to go. We can't always do that in a council meeting, simply because things like budgetary processes and so forth, the staff need to get a feel of what the decision makers are looking for. And in order to do that, we can't be doing it behind closed doors. So I think in a committee is exactly the right way to do it. But having said that, as I said, I don't think it's carte blanche to be doing it for every single thing, but well targeted, I think it will make it not only more efficient, more effective, but more transparent. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. Councillor Cruelty to close. No, sorry. Oh, sorry, reserved. Councillor Hall.
Yes, I'll be supporting this. I think it's a fantastic committees. I've had a lot of looked in on the internet, looked a bit of research on it. We've got Ballarat have a lot of committees of the whole council. Sorry?
Just
Point of order from Councillor Simpendorfer. Can you?
62.9.2, its relevance. We're here to put this out on community consultation, not debate the committees and other areas that have them and don't have them at the moment. This is to go out to community feedback, isn't it?
Sorry, can you clarify your point of order, please?
Yeah, Council Hall's going down the line of discussing what other councils do and how beneficial they are. This is not a debate. This is to go out to community consultation over the different committees. I have a point of order of its relevance to this debate.
Just to get it in my own head, you're suggesting that the matter before us is a policy that's going out, that the question before us is to put it out to community consultation, and that we shouldn't be debating anything other than putting it out to community consultation. Is that correct?
That's the line that I felt Council Hall was going down, discussing Bendigo and other councils and how they run their business. This is a draft committee policy to be placed on public exhibition for 28 days and a further report to come back to council incorporating that feedback. I don't think this is the time for that debate about what other councils are doing. I think it's irrelevant at this time.
Thank you. I think I'll uphold that point of order in specific respect to comparisons with other councils at this point. That might be relevant for future council meetings when we debate the issue in its entirety when it comes back from exhibition. So from that point, I'll uphold the point of order. Proceed, please, Councillor Hall. Is it a question relevant to the issue?
Yes and no, I don't know.
Let's hold your question and we'll come back to it if you think it's appropriate. Councillor Hall.
Okay, I'll refrain from that till it comes back up to council. but as had been suggested, the costs involved with having committees, I believe there'd be no extra costs, as they're really not much more than having workshops or briefings, and we can, in lieu of some of the briefings, have the committees of the whole. We'll just have to work out what's best, but I don't believe there would be any extra cost. I believe they will be more transparent in the fact that they will be open to the public. I don't suggest we have numerous committees, but I think a few committees dealing with real issues gives the opportunity for councillors to have input, whereas it's been problematic in the past of being able to get our views across, or our thoughts across, without being seen to be directing staff. So I think it's an opportunity that we should support, and I'll be supporting this resolution.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Councillor Quilty to close.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I may, I'll make a short observation that earlier in this meeting we had a wonderful debate on a report that is going to community consultation, which is budget, and Councillor Poulton and I discussed a report about other councillors doing it, like 47 or 48 councillors. I don't know whether that should have been a point of order or this should have been a point of order to this regard. I will let Mr. Mayor and others responsible for this to decide. It's just what I was going to ask and was slightly surprised that it, I don't understand this point. But anyway, back to the issue. I commend councillors who commented and did their own research on the efficiencies of having a committee. I would like to point out that we have briefings every Monday. Those briefings last at least half a day. And workshops on top of that, and staff prepare lengthy reports for us, answer all our questions, bring additional information if we require it. I believe that already a lot of work is being done, and the way that committees are going to do it just going to be in a different form with hopefully not a huge workload. At the moment, we workload addition, although there is a huge workload obviously now. We're just talking about Finance and Budget Committee. I see it as very beneficial from the transparency point of view, from agility point of view, from efficiency point of view, and I think replacing or partially replacing briefings where we have a discussion, being very careful not to slip into debate. We will have a lot more freedom to debate the issues, to come up with a recommendation to council and to make decisions and move through decisions a lot faster and a lot more efficiently. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Quilty. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Councillor Chamberlain, Councillor Lowe, Councillor Hall, Councillor Mildren, Councillor Quilty. All those against? Councillor Simpendorfer, Councillor Poulton. Motion carried. The next item, 7.12, is the Finance and Budget Delegated Committee. Do I have a motion? Councillor Quilty. Do I have that as recommended? Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will just briefly read out the recommendation. From the date of this resolution, there be established a delegated committee, Finance and Budget Delegated Committee. The purpose of the committee is to exercise council's functions and powers and to perform council's duties in relation to finance and budget matters. The members of delegation committees are all councillors. The chairperson of the committee is the mayor. A quorum of the committee is a whole number that is an absolute majority. which is the number of members that is greater than half of the total number of members of the delegated committee. All members of the delegated committee have voting rights on the delegated committee. They be delegated to the members of the delegated committee the powers, duties, and functions set out in the attached instrument of delegation. The instrument comes into force immediately. The common seal of council is affixed to the instrument and remains in force until council determines to vary or revoke it. The powers, duties, and functions conferred on the members of the delegated committee by the instrument must be exercised in accordance with any guidelines and policies council may from time to time adopt. The instrument be sealed. I've already spoken at the previous meeting and at the previous item in this meeting why I think committees and especially Finance and Budget Committee are important. I just want to thank our CEO and staff for preparing this report, for making it so comprehensive, and I'm really happy with it, and I'm really excited that it's on the agenda tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hall.
I'll reserve, thank you.
Councillor Poulton. Saw your hand first, sorry.
Jeez. I don't even know where to start with this. So this is a question I don't want to answer yet, but I want to hear it at least addressed somewhere in the debate, I'm hoping. I think the committee's policy that's just been endorsed to go for public consultation would have... Oh, okay, point of order.
Your point of order, Councillor Lowe.
Sorry, it might not even be a point of order. I'm just trying to understand how we're going out for a committee's policy for community feedback, but now we're voting on a committee. I'm just wondering how we're doing one before the other.
I'll take that as a question rather than a point of order. Is that? Thank you. I'll pass the question across to the CEO to give a response.
There's the buzz.
No, he got in my ear and said that. So.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, the committee policy will go out for consultation. Council has the head of power already in the governance rules to have committees. The reality operationally is that the Budget and Finance Committee probably won't need to meet till later this year, and operationally it will take us a time to set it up in the system to incorporate it. So I anticipate that before this committee is actually called, that the community consultation will come back and you'll be able to adopt something and we'll be able to proceed. But if you were concerned about that being consistent, then you could delay this until after the consultation period. Thank you.
Might I just add that the policy is a broad policy that isn't totally necessary in the context of a single committee. It's beneficial to have it over all potential committees that might happen, but it's not, and I think the CEO probably said this in different words, but it's not something that is intrinsic because the powers under which the committee gets created are separate to the policy. The policy is a guideline on how committees might be established, not specifically related to any individual committee. So I hope that answers the question. Councillor Poulton, resume, please.
Can I start my couple of minutes now? Is that all right? Not because my question time and everything, the point of orders and whatever just happened, I'm not too sure. But I'm getting 27 back. Thanks very much. Before policy is adopted, I think is a very good pickup by people. And if anybody was in the mind to move that this item get deferred, I'd be happy to hear that. But I do have a concern around this. Before a policy and before we've heard community feedback, would almost paint the optics of this aren't real good. But I guess the deliberative engagement that's associated with this particular committee that's earmarked here to be set up by a recommendation, I can't see everything that we need to do by the Act as a whole council truly being answered here in front of us, councillors. Believe it or not, the structures are in place in these public council meetings for each of us to call anything. If we want to get our officers to give us a case of a 1%, a 2%, a 3% budget in 6 months from now, call up a notice of motion any month, call a special meeting, Mr. Mayor, if you've got 3 people that want to do it or 4. The framework is already there for us to conduct really good business efficiently, call it for a Monday during what's usually a briefing time, do whatever you want without the extra red tape. So this won't get my support simply because it's also open to political hijack. Now, when the going's good and you've got numbers on your side and everything, your agenda's going this way and you think you're doing good stuff, that's great. The legacy piece you leave behind to be hijacked by somebody later on, I think is a real risk within this particular proposal. And I think we're just going a little bit, just out of the realms of what the Local Government Act's truly trying to tell us to do in our jobs each and every day since 2020. Yes, I know they're in the Act. Yes, you've provided a report that satisfies all those components, but I think it's the practical implementation of this versus councillors understanding their roles and what they can do within the frameworks that are already there for public meeting. I think we end up doubling up on what could already be achieved with what we've got around us. And I'll be honest, we haven't, in the last 2.5 years, fully unlocked what's available to us. So I think a lot of us think, maybe a committee will help us. You'll probably find later on you might regret it. That's how I could see it potentially being used against you at some point in time. But if that's the way councils want to go, so be it.
Thank you, Councillor Poulton. Question, Councillor Simpson.
Was the recommendation as per recommendation? Yes. All of it?
For this one, yes.
Okay, so I thought I heard a difference with point 4. It was just the mayor, but that might be my hearing. But as long as it's as per the recommendation, that satisfies the question. Mr Mayor, I will call the point of order of 61.1 that you don't accept this motion. I just don't think it's good optics for our community to have the previous matter go off for community feedback and consultation around do we have these committees set up, and our very next item is trying to set up a committee. I get we can do it, and I accept the CEO's response that we're not probably going to form, or they're not going to meet before then. I just don't think it's a good look to our community to say we're going to do one thing and then immediately after the next item do almost the opposite and try and form a committee. 61.1.
Sorry, I thought you said 64. Did you say 61?
Sorry, 61.1. Motion was taken to the 25 for question.
It's not 62, so it has to be 25. Thank you, Councillor Simpendorf. I've looked through the rules and it refers from 61 back to clause 25 in terms of the chair's duty, and it says any motion which is determined by the chair to be defamatory, objectionable in language or nature, vague or unclear in intention, outside the powers of council, or irrelevant to the item of business on the agenda, and has not been admitted as urgent or purports to be an amendment but must not be accepted by the chair. So under those rules, I don't see that I have any ability to actually accept the point of order.
Is it not objectionable?
Clearly not objectionable.
It's your call, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Not just yet. Clearly, I don't accept the point of order and overrule it in this point. Thank you. Question, Councillor Quilty?
A question to Councillor Poulton and anyone who may assist. I believe Councillor Poulton mentioned deliberative engagement for the previous item, but I gathered from the report that we're not doing deliberative engagement. We're placing the policy for 28 days of public exhibition. That's not... that's my question. Is it deliberative engagement? I don't...
Sorry, Councillor Quilty, I don't understand your question.
Public exhibition or deliberative, they're different.
Councillor Poulton said that we are putting the policy on, that we're going to engage in deliberative engagement on the, is that correct? Did I heard correctly?
I mentioned deliberative engagement. Thank you, Councillor Quilty, for your question. Sorry, Mr Mayor, I probably should have go ahead first. I said that in reference to the practicality and implementation of this particular plan. I think the things that we have in place, the structures for our open council meetings, our ability to call upon something to be on the agenda at any point in time, and for the council to genuinely, transparently decide and not get lost or confused around whether something's a committee meeting or a council meeting and whether they're delegated powers or not or anything like that. I think in terms of for deliberative engagement with our community, I think this actually reverses what an open council meeting can actually achieve effectively if we as councillors unlock the structure and use it correctly. Because to be honest, I think we've had 2 or if that notices of motion in 2.5 years and they've failed for whatever reason or has it sort of, if we're proactive, everything's there for us. This thing about the discussion around the budget, I believe if in November we all said, hey, we want to make sure we've got models for this, this and this, we could have achieved that without a committee. And that's the point I was trying to make. No, sorry.
Thank you, Councillor.
Does that clear it up, the question?
Thank you. Councillor Poulton, please continue. Or have you finished?
No, I'm done. No,
Sorry.
no,
Thank you.
No, I just wanted to make sure my debate...
Any other speakers? Councillor Lowe.
Yeah, I supported the council policy going out for the community consultation and because I'm interested to hear the community's feedbacks. So I'm unable to vote in favour of this committee tonight for that reason, is I want to wait to hear from the community about what they think of these committees and whether they find use. I know, you know, there's going to be reference to lots of councils that use them, but I'd like to hear the feedback from those councils and from the community about the policy first. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Councillor Chamberlain.
Yeah, I'll be supporting this, as I've stated before. I believe the previous item was about how we go about the committee situation, not necessarily whether or not we should have them. We have committees already, a number of them. Some of them are statutory requirements, some of them are advisory. And how we go about doing that is, I think, important for the public to have feedback on. This particular committee, as I've stated before, there's particularly on the budgetary situation, and it was my first budget, but I found it a very painful process. In the budget workshops, simply because of the fact that we weren't able to give direction. The staff had to try and glean from our discussion what we were thinking and where we should be going, because if you can't give them some direction as to what you're looking for, or we as the decision makers are looking for, it's very difficult for them to prepare a budget that reflects our decision. And the last thing that this or any council needs is for the budget to be voted down in its entirety, simply because the officers couldn't glean from the workshops exactly what the councillors were looking for. I think this committee does that. It basically could be operated as those workshops. It's more transparent and we're able to give the staff the direction we're looking for, and I think that's important. Again, I've only been through one budget process and I found it very difficult, and I think this will help. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. Councillor Hall.
I totally concur with Councillor Chamberlain's comments. It's been, I must say, it has been a difficult budget process, and it's not I'm not blaming the staff or whatever, but it's been difficult to convey, you know, what we want, or not what we want, but what we believe should go into the budget without directing staff. Even, you know, it's just become very difficult with many things. And as I said before, there are many councils that have finance committees, and I just don't understand why there is a resistance to want to have one here. Just going to try and find my notes I had. There's definitely communication issues with what the current budget process was. I believe, along with the terms of reference and delegations given to this committee of the whole council, will allow for an open and smooth process. The meetings will be open to the public, therefore giving it more transparency to the community than ever we've had ever before. I note Councillor Poulton's suggestions about council decisions at meeting that we can request direct from meetings. But you know, we have one a month. I don't know if he's suggesting that we have more council meetings. It's quite difficult to. I mean, we've got a long agenda tonight. I think having the committees, the Finance and Budget Committee, will just streamline things so much more. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Councillor Quilty to close.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I absolutely take on board the comments about a Finance and Budget Committee vote coming before we hear from the community on the committee policy at large. However, I will still be supporting the Finance and Budget Delegation Committee tonight. I will be absolutely looking forward to community feedback to the committees, how we are going to add value by having those committees. I even will be excited if we can sort of review this policy in maybe 12 months' time or something, but that's a conversation for a different night to see what communities think about the Finance and Budget Committee. I believe that having a Finance and Budget Committee, even if it's the only delegated committee we have, is incredibly important. I agree with other councillors who said that they felt communication problem with staff because the staff were really open to our questions, suggestions, and we are simply not allowed to make suggestions, to give directions, to say, to uphold the no surprises policy, and to come to this May meeting with a ready budget that is ready to go for community consultation. Tonight's agenda is over 1,000 pages long, and having Finance Committee deal in their meetings with the budget and having the whole council dealing with the rest of it will make it so much easier for the community to understand our budget process as well. They will be able to watch us work on the budget. They will be able to provide meaningful feedback. The huge strain of reading the lengthy budget document will be somewhat removed or spaced out in time. And whenever an adjustment to budget is needed, the committee will be able to decide very quickly and put the recommendations up to council or decide on its own, depending on the delegations, what we're doing there. I strongly believe in Finance and Budget Committee, which will add efficiency, agility, and transparency above all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Quilty. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Councillor Chamberlain, Councillor Hall, Councillor Mildren, Councillor Quilty. Those against? Councillor Simpendorfer, Councillor Poulton, Councillor Lowe. Motion is carried. The next item on the agenda is item 7.13, the Racecourse Grandstand. Update and further information. Do I have a motion? Councillor Quilty.
Yes. Got it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to move a motion that council not fund any further expenditure on the Wodonga Racecourse Grandstand other than to make safe and demolition costs if demolition is approved. That council seeks consent of the grandstand asset owner, the Victorian State Government Department of Energy, Environment and Climate Action, to demolish the grandstand structure and report back to council once the final response is received to advise of the next step.
Can I make a clarification? Was the to make a determination on whether to demolish deliberately left out, or was that just a...
No, it's because of my notes being all over the place. Sorry, may I just reread it again? The motion that council not fund any further expenditure on the Wodonga Racecourse Grandstand other than to make safe and demolition costs if demolition is approved, and that council seek consent of the grandstand asset owner, the Victorian State Government Department of Energy, Environment and Climate Action, to make a determination on whether to demolish or not the grandstand structure and report back to council once the final response is received to advise of the next step. Thank you.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Lowe, Councillor Quilty.
Mr. Mayor, I believe that a decision needs to be made and made soon about what we're going to do with the racecourse grandstand. A lot of comments have been made about its historic value and how much of historic value it retains, and if we chose to retain it, whether we would choose to retain it to its original historic value, which would be millions of dollars, or just make it safe, or make it safe and accessible, and lots of questions to be asked and lots of reports to be presented, and the ownership issue remains. I believe that it will be beneficial for Wodonga Council to put this back to the actual asset owner and to make this decision as it should be made by the owner, and then continue to act safely for our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Councillor Lowe reserves. Any other speakers? Councillor Simpendorf. Question, Councillor Simpendorf.
A question in probably through yourself or the CEO and some staff. What is the likelihood at point 2 there of the asset owner just putting it back on us and saying, you're the committee of management, you deal with it? Is this an actual outcome that is just going to be delayed even more? Or is there a real chance that the state government would make that decision themselves?
I think putting the motion back to the state government, they'll have to come back with a response in one form or another. It could be either side of the ledger. So from that point of view, I don't think it's going to just defer it. It might mean that we have to come back and consider if they deny, but prima facie, they will have to make a decision if we put this to them. Any other speakers? Councillor Hall.
Look, I find this a really hard decision, and I'm really on the fence with it. And it's been one of those decisions that I think some councillors have been on the fence. I like the building, but the costs involved, and we don't know what detail the building's in, or what condition the building's in. I do think there probably is some responsibility of council to probably have a look at it a bit further, but then again, you know, I'm really not sure where I'm going to go with this vote. It's a difficult one for me.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Councillor Simbendorfer.
Yeah, thanks. So my trepidation is that this is potentially going to drag things out even more, and I appreciate that the Racing Wodonga stayed here at a very long agenda. I think you must have drawn the outside barrier on the agenda tonight. It needs a decision, and we need to almost have courage to make that. I'm just worried with this proposal. I understand the intent of putting it back onto the owner. That makes sense, but you know, we might be looking at, there's no timeline then within the resolution. We can't force the state government to come back to us by a certain date. They sit on it, and we're back waiting for months and months for another report back to council, and we're in the same position we are tonight in another 2 months, 3 months down the track. So I've got some nervousness around how it is.
Thank you. Councillor Hall. Do you have a question, Councillor Hall? You've already spoken. Yeah.
I've got a question, and I don't know who would be the best person, whether the chair, yourself, or whether through the CEO. But if we made a decision or determination regarding the, and it's not making it in this recommendation, but further down the track to say demolish it, will it still end up having to go back through to the state government to look at that, because they're the actual owners of the...
Councillor Hall, we don't have the authority to make the decision to demolish the building, hence the reference back to the department. We can deal with a lot of other processes around it, and we can even deal with planning permits that would allow the demolition, but we can't actually give the instruction for demolition because that's not our decision. Councillor Poulton, question?
Am I correct in understanding that, and this is, I think, to officers through you, Mr. Mayor, am I correct in understanding that we're sort of is deadlocked because we just haven't got the evidence yet in terms of that's why the recommendation's there to spend money? I think that's where we're at, is that right?
Councillor Poulton, my understanding of this, and I'll seek other advice if we need to, but my understanding is we've got a whole lot of information that tells us about the building. We know the status of the building. What we don't know is exactly what it would cost and which options we should follow in remediating and making the building good, as in distinct from just being safe. So we have lots of information, but we don't have the information that tells us how much it would cost to fix it. And that would be like the 150,000 that we had originally spoken about at a previous meeting was effectively put in place, or suggested to be put in place, to deal with getting quotes and getting costs done. But the difficulty we had was we didn't know what the standard might best be given the circumstances. There's 3 or 4 different options. So I don't think you would paraphrase it in the way you've done with your question. We know that the building's in a fairly poor state of repair. Mr. CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I suppose the question is, would the state come back to us with this resolution and say why, and how do you justify that you can't afford it? And given we've already had a demolition application lodged and determined, it is possible they'll come back. Hence the reason staff has said, to be able to fully answer the question that we might get asked, we need further investigative works, and we've asked for $150,000 to do that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other speakers? Danny? Councillor Chamberlain?
Sorry, I just checked my mic's on. Yeah, again, I'm of the opinion, and I'm entitled to an opinion as everyone else is, that the grandstand probably is beyond reasonable repair, particularly given that if we repair it, we're not going to be able to bring it up to a standard that's appropriate for 2023, as in disabled access, etc., etc. That's a whole nother situation. I did move at the previous council meeting that we spend the money and determine what needs to be spent on it, and possibly that may very well have determined that it was not financially viable to do it. That was voted down by the current group, and that's their right. I tend to support Councillor Quilty's motion this time on the basis of we don't own it. Maybe we need to get the state government to get involved on the asset that they do own, and hopefully they will consult with Racing Wodonga and indeed Racing Victoria as to what their intentions are going forward. And we can do the right thing and we can get a result on this grandstand one way or the other. It's a vexed issue. If we decide that it's not worth saving or it's financially unviable, there are a lot of heritage people who are going to be very unhappy. My own personal opinion is generally my default position is to try and retain heritage and important buildings. Having said that, they've got to be viable, and I just don't think this one is. The other side of it is obviously if we decide to keep it, well then Racing Wodonga may find that it's a thorn in their side on the development that they're trying to do, and it's going to be a very big thorn on our ratepayers' side in order to spend the money that it will or may very well need in order to get it back to reasonable condition, let alone back to actually optimum operable condition. So I think I'll be supporting this.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. No other speakers? Councillor Lowe? Before you come back to reserve, I'll exercise the right from the chair. The first thing that I see about this is we've got an asset that is required by law to be kept on the council assets in terms of accounting and depreciation and renewal and maintenance costs and all the things that the burdens that come with that. It's a building that's in, we know, an extraordinarily poor state of disrepair. We know from the amounts of money that our staff have suggested we need to set aside in the budget that it's a very, very big job and a very costly job, and estimated somewhere, and this was probably done some time ago, but estimated somewhere in the order of $1.5 million. I think in the circumstances we're in, we should be trying to stop the bleeding of the council expenditure and put the pressure back on the department who are the owners of the building and get them to make a decision one way or the other. If they come back and say that we should be retaining the building because of whatever reasons they might bring up, then we would need to be having a conversation with them about who takes responsibility and ownership of the building and whose asset register it actually falls on. So I don't think the knowledge about what the cost might be or which option we might take in terms of costing to see which renovation method might be applied, whether it's to restore the building to its heritage value of 1927, whether it's to just make the building functionally safe to be able to used in the relative current state that it's in, but safe, or whether it's some other in-between situation. We don't know the answers to those things, and the variables are quite large. So to go down the path of doing that just seems to me to be bleeding money out of the council, and that's bleeding money out of the ratepayers' funds, and we're not talking about small amounts. So in the circumstances, I think we put the pressure back, or the question back to the department and get an answer, and if the answer comes back and says, well, no, we're not going to consent to demolition, then we move to the next step and work out what we need to do. Councillor Lowe.
Thank you. I echo your words, Mr. Mayor, and and that of my fellow councillor Quilty. I think it should be put back onto the state government. I did say last time, we've got all the information here. I know they say you shouldn't draw on your experiences, but my experience is my experience, and I have a role in estimating projects, so I can safely say that I know where there's good money spent and where there's bad money spent, and I don't think I'd be doing a fiscal justice to our community if I just kept throwing good money after bad. I received an interesting phone call from a gentleman that actually spent the whole of World War II there, and I thought, because I too, I'll echo Councillor Chamberlain's words up there, have a need to cherish our heritage and the buildings that are attached to that when we're able to. But when they don't actually stand today in the same state that they were 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 or 40 years ago, I find it hard to justify spending community's money to do that. This particular conversation with this gentleman that spent World War II there, I thought was going to give his opinion why we should leave it and why we should keep it in this, keep the building. But it was actually just to tell me about him spending the whole of World War II there. Him and 7 mates met their wives here. They went on to set up families here. They had 4 rugby teams, but they said that building, whilst they used it as a canteen or a shed just off the side of it, now no longer looks the way it did back then. And I think that's to do with all the additions that's happened over time. But I'll be supporting Councillor Quilty's motion tonight for those reasons.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Councillor Quilty to close.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, councillors, for the debate. I'm also a great believer in preserving history, and unfortunately, not many people who were even born or were around there in 1927 are with us. However, the buildings that they erected still bear the fruits of their labor. But what are we looking at here is restoring it to a 1927 state is prohibitive in cost. And the state it is now is just well beyond repair, and spending money on it while we don't even own it, while we're just being a custodian of it, is very prohibitive. And we have it is not just money, but also a sentimental issue. But we've looked at it, we thought about it, and I think it's time we put the onus back on the owner. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Quilty. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Councillor Chamberlain, Councillor Lowe, Councillor Hall, Councillor Mildren, Councillor Quilty. Those against? Councillor Simpendorfer, Councillor Poulton. The motion is carried. I've just been advised that we have an issue in terms of our time starting to expire. And if I can have, if we're of a mind to continue, can I have a motion to continue for another half an hour is what the governance rules provide. Councillor Quilty? Councillor Lowe? This is a procedural motion. Yes, but we don't need to debate it. Okay. So I put the motion. All those in favour of extending for half an hour? Councillor Chamberlain, Councillor Lowe, Councillor Hall, Councillor Poulton, Councillor Mildren, Councillor Quilty. Those against? Councillor Simpendorfer. The motion is carried. The next item of business is intention to enter a lease with Telstra. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor Lowe. Councillor Simpendorfer. Councillor Lowe.
I think communication is always an issue within our community, and I think this goes part of the way to solving problems for some people, and we need to make room for it, and we get an income from that as well. So I think it stands for itself.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Councillor Simpendorfer.
As I was going to say, it stands for itself as per the recommendation in the report that we've attached, so I'll be supporting it.
Thank you, Councillor Simpendorfer. Any other councillors wish to speak? Councillor Hall.
Oh, the only thing I'd like to add is I sort of thought that it probably should be CPI rather than 2.5%, but it's gone out to the public and had a consultation process, and I'm quite happy to really at the end of the day accept the 2.5%.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Any other councillors? Councillor Chamberlain.
Yeah, I'll be supporting this. I don't think it's too controversial. It's designed to correct some black spots, and I think it's worthwhile supporting. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillors? Councillor Lowe. I put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Next item of business is a proposed road deviation at Meridian Rise. Do I have a motion? Councillor Poulton. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Lowe. Councillor Poulton.
Thank you. As per the report and the recommendation. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Lowe. Any other councillors? Councillor Hall.
This item's been with council for some time now, has been reviewed extensively and has come back up to council for a final decision. I support the officer's recommendation and thank Leon Schultz and his staff for their a lot of work on this report. Thank you.
Any other councillors? Just quickly, Councillor Chamberlain, sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, I'll be supporting this as well. And again, I'd like to echo Councillor Hall's comments of the great work done by the staff through you, Mr. CEO. Leon Schultz and his people have done a fantastic job in getting this report together. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Poulton. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Unanimous. The next item on the agenda is authorisation to proceed to a planning scheme amendment for the open space strategy. Do I have a motion? Councillor Poulton, seconder. Councillor Lowe. Councillor Poulton. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We spoke about that last one, big body of work. My goodness, the open space strategy. There's been a couple of rounds of community consultation. There's been countless briefings of councillors and workshops and things over a good substantial period. It reflects, community vision of which we continue to, I guess, review, and we will look at through other policy and strategy documents, not just this one, but this is the rigid, important planning scheme change, updates, I probably should refrain to say it is, which is really good. So, yeah, it has my support, and like the item before us, we always thank our engineering staff and what have you, because there's a lot of paperwork behind making things look good around here.
Councillor Lowe. Any other councillors? No? Oh, Councillor Chamberlain, I did look.
Sorry, my hand must have been in the wrong spot. Yeah, I'm a little torn on this one, not so much on the strategy, and obviously was not part of the council on some of the earlier stuff. Generally, that's pretty good. The one thing that I am a bit torn on, but I'm probably going to support it in any case, is the planning scheme amended documentation for the land contribution rates for industrial and commercial zoned land. The recommendation, I believe, is for 5%. Oh, no, sorry, is for 2.5%, although standard is 5. So again, I'm a little torn, but I think the 2.5 is probably going to be appropriate given the fact that public land or open land in industrial zones isn't quite as critical as it is in residential areas. Thank you.
Councillor Chamberlain, just a correction. The motion that's been moved has 5%, not 2.5. Any further comment?
Sorry, yeah. Again, as I said, I'm torn between the 2.5 and the 5, which was the suggestions, because 2.5 is what we've generally been requesting on industrial and commercial zone land. But I don't think it's worthwhile tearing up the motion on the basis of my indecision on that one. So I probably will be supporting this.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. Any other councillors? Oh, the motion is the motion. I think we have to live with it. I don't intend to support this motion, not because there hasn't been a lot of good work done. There has been, there's no doubt. My difficulty is the methodology that's going to be applied in the planning scheme, I believe, will not be in the best interests of the broader, longer term public open space provision. It'll be somewhat more of an ad hoc approach rather than a bigger picture strategic planning exercise. So from that point of view, I can't support this motion. So back to Councillor Poulton to close.
Yeah, look, to be honest, it's a tough one to debate because there's just so much in there. There's a lot in there, and at the end of the day, I had a few reservations as we went through the process around, you know, what land do we get, what's the quality to some of those sorts of conversations, and as we went through in a briefing, and this report was presented to us along with a slideshow to sort of explain a couple of the things. All my concerns, or have we done the best we can, were pretty much answered, and I felt like it's taken us a long time to get to this point and have something in place adequately. So full support. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Put the motion. All those in favour? Councillor Chamberlain, Councillor Simpendorfer, Councillor Lowe, Councillor Poulton. Those against? Councillor Hall, Councillor Milton, Councillor Quilty. The motion is carried. The next item we have is the proposed road names for Baranduda Fields Sporting Precinct. Do I have a motion? Councillor Hall.
Look, I propose to put forward the recommendation for this. I've lost it on my on my
As per recommendation.
yeah, as per recommendation. Yeah, now I've got my notes on it. Sorry. I've got it here somewhere. I haven't got much to add to it other than that we go through, being a member of the committee of the Places Name Committee, we do go for rigorous discussions. We get advice, professional advice, and so we don't take the decision on naming names lightly. I think the names that have come up for the Baranduda Fields precinct are, you know, they've had a lot of thought put in them, and I think they're appropriate names going forward. And so this is put before council to decide on, and I'll be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Councillor Poulton. Any other councillors? Councillor Chamberlain.
Yeah, this one's obviously this motion is obviously to put it out for review for the public on public exhibition. I do appreciate the Place Names Committee and the work they do. I'm not 100% on board with the names they've chosen on this one, and maybe the public exhibition and the feedback from the people will come up with something out of left field that nobody's thought of that's far more appropriate. But I'll be supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Councillor Poulton?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I know it was a fiery debate, that one. I'm glad I reserved my right. Look, it is, Councillor Chamberlain, I think, was being very polite. It's some safe names, very safe names, and that's the world we live in these days. But, you know, that doesn't mean that's the name there forever. As appropriate people may pass or come to our attention or whatever the parameters the Place Naming Committee are due to work under, as appropriate names come forward, doesn't mean a council decision in the future can't respectfully honour somebody that may require that, but I think it's appropriate for now. We'll see what the community have to say.
Thank you, Councillor Poulton. Councillor Hall?
No, I do, you know, I'm interested to hear the feedback that if there is any, you know, I think we're always open to good names. They're not that easy to come by at times, so, but I think the committee did work hard with this. It was, some of the other names suggested were, could have been worse. So I think it was the better of you know, worse. But I do think they're appropriate names for that precinct. So I think they will be, you know, I think the community will understand the motive behind those names.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Unanimous. The next item of business is Wodonga Sports and Leisure Centre and Waves Facility Review. Councillor Quilty.
Too late at night. Sorry, so my motion is to keep item 1, item 2, item 3, and in item 4, just take out and future staged works at Baranduda Fields.
Thank you, Councillor Quilty. Do we have a seconder? Question, Councillor Quilty.
Sorry, just my question was to Councillor Quilty before I decide whether I'm prepared to second or not. Just the removal of the words, what was the rationale? And then maybe, sorry, Mr. Mayor, also if there's an officer response into why they thought that was important in the original recommendation, just so I can get some clarity around what the inclusion or exclusion may be achieving.
Thank you, Councillor Poulton. Question, Councillor Quilty.
Thank you, Councillor Poulton. I propose to take out those words because I believe that it's a, they are two entirely, well, even three very big projects, and our aquatic facilities that we have, our one big project, and Baranduda Fields, while also a sporting facility, is a huge project of its own. I think any financial decision we make, we should keep into in our minds Baranduda Fields, because it will cost us lots for years and years to come. But I think it is necessary to deal with those two things, Acquatics and Baranduda Fields, separately for clarity, and simplicity is probably not appropriate word for clarity. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. CEO, for the second part of the question.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The concept actually was raised by councillors themselves in the discussion that we had when we had presentations, and we also had Leona come up and present the report. So it was in reference to the future need for basketball stadiums into the future, and how that might fit into Baranduda Fields.
Thank you, Deputy CEO. Do I have a seconder for the motion?
Oh, I actually quite like this reason. Happy to revert back to the original motion.
Are you agree with that? Are you happy to go with the original
Well,
motion?
I'll see if there is a seconder for my motion.
We've lost Danny. Yeah. Sorry.
No, let's see if we have a second, then have a debate.
Okay, do we have a second? Sorry, Councillor Chamberlain, we're not picking you up real well.
As I said, I apologise. I had to move closer to my charger. I was down to 5%. Oh no, sorry, my iPad's down to 5%.
Okay,
I'm down
back to the
3.
points at hand and let's keep moving. Do we have a seconder for the original motion?
I'll second it for debate purposes.
Thank you. Councillor Quilty, speak to the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I already said what I was intending to say in response to Councillor Poulton's question. I take on board the comment that the basketball fields are part of our Wodonga Sports and Leisure Centre facility, and we should sort of look at it in conjunction with Baranduda Fields. We could, in conjunction with Baranduda Fields. However, I still think. Sorry, I came with like different, not a completely made up mind on this one, as we should. Wodonga Sports and Leisure Centre, we had different discussions and different proposed outcomes going forward for Wodonga Sports and Leisure Centre. And I think the complexity of Wodonga Sports and Leisure Centre dealings and waves call for considering them separately outside of Baranduda Fields. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hall.
I don't have anything to add to the debate.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? Councillor Poulton.
Look, Mr. Mayor, nothing personal, but I'm happy to speak against this one, only because I think the original recommendation did leave us open-minded to future strategic outcomes that we might not be able to predict. I don't think having those words in there, removing those words has actually achieved anything positive by doing that. And I think just making sure that we are always on top of our major sporting assets and the potential of how they interact, I think is pretty important. So yeah, I won't be supporting this one. The recommendation I thought was pretty solid. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Poulton. Any other councillors? Councillor Lowe.
I'll probably move an alternate motion if this doesn't get up, or whatever you want to call it. Can't even foreshadow the motion. Yeah. Sorry. It's late.
So let me explore that, Councillor Lowe. You're foreshadowing a different motion which might look similar to this one but with a very small change. I'm happy to accept a motion to amend the motion if you choose.
Thank you. I accept that. I'll move the motion to amend. I may even request of the mover to.
The request has been made to the mover and seconder to accept, and I'm taking some liberties, but I believe it's add the and future state works at Baranduda Fields. The mover and seconder, do you accept the change?
So basically to revert and future state. Okay.
Seconder? And yeah.
or no?
Okay, in that case, Councillor Lowe, you move an amendment to the motion. Anybody want to discuss the amendment to the motion?
Oh, I'm happy to second it. He's adding the words back in as per recommendation. Yep, I'm happy to second it.
Okay, no discussion? Okay, I put the motion. We're voting only on the inclusion of the last and future stage works at Baranduda Fields. Councillor Lowe's amendment. We're voting on that back into the system. So I put that. All those in favour? Councillor Lowe, Councillor Poulton, Councillor Mildren, Councillor Quilty, Councillor Simpendorfer. Those against? Councillor Hall, Councillor Chamberlain. So the amendment becomes the motion. We now have a situation to debate that because there hasn't been a lot of debate. So anybody wish to speak to it? The amendment is the motion. Councillor Chamberlain.
Yeah, I'm not overly fussed about the actual extra words. Having said that, I came down on the side of not adding them, but that doesn't mean, again, that I'm going to throw out the motion on the basis that I don't think those words are needed. I think all of our sporting fields, whether they be football grounds, soccer grounds, whatever, have to be interact with each other. Basketball courts aren't any different to any of the others, and we need to keep an overarching approach on all of our sporting fields. But having said that, I don't think this motion bars that. It just specifically lines up Baranduda Fields with that Sports and Leisure Centre. So I will be supporting it in the end. Yep.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. I'll just add in one little comment that it would be concerning if this became a bigger than, well, the old proverbial Ben-Hur type exercise. If this became such a big exercise that we lost touch with the reality of what the original concept was about, that would be concerning, but I'm hopeful and trusting that that's not the way it'll end up going. Councillor Quilty to close.
I've got nothing to add. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
No, but it's good English. Yeah. I'd like to thank you for your report through you, CEO. I think it's given us all the information that we need, and with this recommendation moving forward, we'll be able to garner some more knowledge to make a strategic decision whether I'll note the BAU and the basin strategic modelling, and it'll give us more information to make a decision on that long-term strategic plan. That's all. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Lowe. I put the motion. All those in favour? Unanimous. Took a while. No, that's it. Okay, councillors, I'm advised we need another motion to extend for 30 minutes if that's of the mind of council. Is there anybody prepared to move it? Councillor Quilty, anybody second? Yep. Any seconder? No seconder. The motion lapses. We're out of time. I therefore... Sorry, did you just put your hand up, Councillor Chamberlain, to second the motion? I think you're on mute, Councillor Chamberlain. Yeah.
Sorry about that. I didn't. No, I didn't put my hand up.
Okay. Yep. So, councillors, given that the motion has lapsed, we now have to conclude the meeting and adjourn to another point, place and time, or it could be the same place, another time. Can I have a motion as to when that might be? Monday's probably not a good day if we're having the workshop. Councillors, we need to use microphones. We're still live.
Yep, I'm comfortable with later this week as a timing to reconvene this meeting, because there may be decisions either the last couple or in confidential business that require decisions before the weekend.
Any other councillors? We need to find a date. I'm being told that if Councillor Chamberlain.
Yeah, I'm all for doing it sooner rather than later. Having said that, there is every possibility if it is later this week, particularly in the next day or two, that I may not be available. But the world doesn't revolve around me and business must go on. So I'm aware of the importance and the urgency, for want of a better word, of the confidential matters. So I will agree to whatever you decide.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. Councillor Hall. Any other councillors have a point of view on doing it after the workshop? Councillor Courtney supports it. Anybody else? That's next Monday after the workshop. It'll probably be a tad more than that. There's still a bit in the agenda. I still want to hear Councillor Simpendorfer out, because he was suggesting that we might need to do this sooner because of the issues. If we need to take...
I'm happy to do a midday Thursday, Friday during the day, during business hours, if that's available for people. And I appreciate Councillor Chamberlain's here remotely. I'm just concerned around items in the confidential business that we probably should get to timely, because they are confidential for a reason and people are waiting on those decisions. I think next week is probably not in their best interests. I think we could be available for this one-off to either Thursday or Friday during business hours.
Okay. Thursday or Friday during business hours, or Monday 6 p.m? Oh, sorry, yes, actually Thursday evening and Friday the CEO and I will be at a MAV meeting in Melbourne, so yeah, probably not the best way to go about it. Yeah. So if we were doing it Thursday, midday or thereabouts. Yeah, okay.
I can do Thursday or Friday after 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
But really, given I'm already
Okay.
taking time off in June to go to the national conference.
Okay, so it comes to me that it looks like it'll be 6 p.m. Monday evening after the workshop.
Why 6 p.m?
Normal council meeting time seems to fit, and it gives us enough flexibility to be able to deal with whatever transpires when the briefing, the workshop finishes. 6 p.m. Monday it is. Yeah. Yep. So 6 p.m. Monday, we're adjourned till 6 p.m. Monday. Thank you. This closure's come about because of the fact that our local rules give us a time limit on meetings, and we haven't been able to get a resolution to take the last extension that would have been available. So therefore, I adjourn the meeting till next Monday at 6 p.m. Good night all.